Chapter 2630. Looking at the destroyed boat of curse, Lin Feng's heart was filled with deep shock. Duguya's cultivation was too terrifying. It was really hard to imagine. Looking at the starry sky, there were probably not many existences who could contend with Duguya, right? Uncle Dugu, I finally found you. Lin Feng looked at Duguya excitedly. Find Duguya. He would know where his mother was suppressed. This was an extremely important matter for Lin Feng. Save his mother. That was Lin Feng's goal. Now, for this goal, Lin Feng persevered and worked hard to cultivate and improve his cultivation. When I saw you back then, you were still in swaddling clothes. After so many years, it feels like a lifetime has passed. Duguya sighed, and then said, "Come back with me. Let's talk in detail." Lin Feng nodded. He left with Duguya. After Lin Feng and Duguya left, splashing sounds could be heard. The boat of curse that had sunk to the bottom of the sea rushed out again. At this time, the boat of curse had been restored to its original state. The boat of curse was also an immortal boat. Even if it was damaged, it could be quickly repaired. Even Lin Feng's Xianyuan ancient starship did not have the powerful repairability of the boat of curse. The boat of curse's powerful repairability might have something to do with it being cursed. The piles of bones on the boat of curse were reorganized. Black fog rolled. They turned into flesh and blood again. Why is this happening? Why is this happening? Grandpa Martin cried out in horror. He died on the boat of curse. His body and soul should have been destroyed. However, when he was killed, the power of curse poured into his remnant soul. In the end, Grandpa Martin also turned into a cursed creature and became a part of the boat of curse. Welcome the new member. The captain of the boat of curse looked at Grandpa Martin gloomily. Welcome the new member. Welcome the new member. Welcome the new member. Many crew members shouted, full of excitement. The boat of curse welcomed a new crew member. The crew members were in high spirits. Endless enmity shot out from Grandpa Martin's eyes. Duguya, Lin Feng, you've caused me so much pain. Grandpa Martin will sooner or later let you die without a burial ground. There's a saying that goes, those who are unjust are doomed to destruction. Grandpa Martin could only blame himself for ending up like this. However, Grandpa Martin blamed Duguya and Lin Feng for his current predicament. Captain, what should we do now? That Duguya is too formidable, and we're probably unable to make a move against that kid, one of the crew members said. The captain of the boat of curse looked gloomy. He said, when a poisonous snake hunts its prey, it will hide and not move. It will look for a golden opportunity and then kill it with one strike. Don't worry. Let's continue to wait for an opportunity. If a baby eagle doesn't try to fly again and again, how can it fly to the ninth heaven? An expert like Dugu, you naturally understood this logic. Since he understood it, he would not continue to follow that brat. Otherwise, how could that brat grow? Therefore, we will have plenty of opportunities. Captain is wise. The crew members immediately cheered. Rumble! The boat of curse emitted a series of sounds that crushed the void. The boat of curse tore through the void and disappeared without a trace. No one knew where it went. Southern Immortal Sea, Chaotic Spirit, Ocean Duguya's cave abode. This was where Duguya cultivated in seclusion. The layout was very simple. Lin Feng followed Duguya into the cave abode. Lin Feng had countless questions for Duguya. Duguya said, I know you have a lot of questions in your heart. You can ask anything you want to know about your father and mother. Where is my mother being suppressed? Lin Feng asked. She's being suppressed in the falling immortal starfield. It's an extremely dangerous place in the depths of the starry sky world. That place is also the main camp of the creatures in the black fog. Duguya said, why did the creatures of the previous era suppress my mother? Lin Feng asked with a gloomy expression. I'm not particularly sure about that. Duguya said, Uncle Dugu, do you have an ancient starry sky map that leads to that starry sky? Lin Feng asked. Duguya shook his head and said, I don't have it here, but it's said that you can find it in the Undying Realm. The Undying Realm. Lin Feng narrowed his eyes. The Undying Realm. The Undying Realm again. It seemed that he had to find a time to go there. I know you want to save your mother, but what you need to do now is to raise your cultivation base. Duguya said, My father has already gone to save my mother, but he had just recovered. I'm afraid that he'll suffer a calamity. Lin Feng voiced his worries. Your father's body is indeed very problematic, Duguya said with a sigh. In Lin Feng's memory, his father had always been sick and had been tormented by an illness. It was only later that Lin Feng learned that his father had once been a god. Lin Feng realized that he knew very little about his father. He had many questions to ask Duguya. What kind of person is my father? Lin Feng asked. Duguya said, Your father was a heroic and charismatic person. I remember that the first time we met was in the demon realm. At that time, I got to know your father, and it was also in the demon realm that I got to know your mother. Devil realm, Lin Feng muttered to himself. It was one of the top 7 great worlds among the 3,000 great worlds. In the devil realm, experts were as common as clouds. How is my father's cultivation base? Lin Feng asked. This was a topic that he was very concerned about. He felt that his father must have been very powerful back then. But as for what kind of cultivation base, Lin Feng couldn't determine. How much do you know about your father? Duguya asked. Lin Feng said, Ever since I could remember, my father had always been injured. His meridians were all broken. Later on, a friend of mine refined spirit liquid and healed my father's injuries. After he recovered, he left the clan, saying that he was going to save my mother. He then told me to find you and follow you in cultivation. Duguya said, Actually, your father's injuries weren't healed by the spiritual liquid your friend refined. The reason why he said that was because he hoped to give you the confidence to cultivate the Tao. He wanted you to know how important it is to become a powerful cultivator and master all kinds of powerful auxiliary professions. You can even save the lives of your loved ones. Hearing Duguya's words, Lin Feng fell silent. He felt that it was possible. He had been very young back then. There were many things that his father couldn't tell him, because at that age, if he suddenly knew too many things, his mind wouldn't be able to take it. Chapter 26:31. While your father was training, he obtained a fortuitous encounter and awakened his bloodline 9 times. Duguya said, What, 9 times? Lin Feng was stupefied. His face was filled with astonishment. One had to know that he had only awakened his bloodline once. The second bloodline awakening was called a deep awakening, and Lin Feng had yet to awaken his bloodline a second time. His father had actually awakened his bloodline 9 times. Every time his bloodline awakened, he would awaken many terrifying abilities, and his cultivation would also increase greatly. It was hard to imagine how many shocking abilities his father had grasped after awakening his bloodline 9 times. The most shocking thing isn't the 9th bloodline awakening, but another ability, Duguya said. Another ability? Lin Feng looked at Duguya in confusion. His eyes lit up, and he said, Could it be that my father has another bloodline? When your father was born, he held a rune of destiny in his hand. His bloodline was the undying divine blood, but that rune of destiny bestowed a second bloodline, called the Destiny Bloodline. That's why, when many experts were fighting for supremacy, your father was unstoppable despite his young age, and was known as the Child of Destiny. Duguya said, Child of destiny, child of destiny. Lin Feng muttered the words, child of destiny. The word destiny was too extraordinary. It was too inconceivable. The child of destiny seemed to have been blessed by the heavens. He was destined to have an extraordinary life. Is it related to the Tao of destiny? Lin Feng asked. It's related, Duguya said. It's said that in every epoch, a child of destiny will be born. Such a person will shoulder the responsibility of resisting the Armageddon War. Duguya said, your father is the leader of this epoch's resistance against the Armageddon War. However, he never expected that someone from the previous epoch would make a move and try to kill your father in advance. Why would they do that? Lin Feng asked with a gloomy expression. They want the epoch to be destroyed. Duguya sighed. The creatures of the previous era already had the experience of surviving the destruction of an era. When this era is destroyed and a new era is born, they will be able to obtain great benefits. Therefore, the creatures of the previous era are looking forward to the destruction of an era and the birth of a new era. When the new era is born, they will be able to obtain endless benefits. At that time, they will be able to live for another era. Duguya said, so, they wanted to kill my father? Let this era be completely destroyed. Countless living beings died in the calamity that destroyed the epoch. Lin Feng asked. That's right. That was indeed their plan. The living beings of the last era wouldn't care about the life and death of others. Even if the universe was destroyed and countless living beings perished, what did that have to do with them? They only think about themselves. Duguya said, every man for himself. The heavens and earth will punish him. Many people took this sentence as a philosophy, but in Lin Feng's eyes, this was a crooked idea. Living in this world, people can't just live for themselves. We have to have family, love, and friendship. If we only live for ourselves, it would be too selfish. However, there are many selfish people in this world. Duguya continued, your father was planted with a demonic seed. His body was almost destroyed, but he managed to suppress the demonic seed for the time being. Therefore, your father is actually in a very dangerous situation. Once the demonic seed awakens again, he might lose himself. They have already destroyed your father. Now, they are waiting for your father to rescue your mother. When the time comes, they will be able to kill your father once and for all. Doesn't that mean my father is in a very dangerous situation? Lin Feng's expression was extremely ugly and anxious. However, he felt a deep sense of helplessness. His cultivation was too weak. He couldn't help at all. This is your father's origin spirit lamp. Duguya took out an ancient lamp. The flame burned brightly. Lin Feng let out a long breath. His father was still alive. Although your father was planted with a demonic seed, I don't think the demonic seed will awaken anytime soon. Given your father's intelligence, I don't think he will act rashly. He will think of a way to recover his strength and save your mother because he knows that if the rescue fails, he will die, and your mother will be killed as well. Duguya said, I need to raise my cultivation. I need to raise my cultivation quickly, so that I can help my father get rid of the demonic seed in his body and save my mother with him. Lin Feng said through gritted teeth. Lin Feng wanted nothing more than to kill all the living beings from the previous epoch. Only then would he be able to quell his anger and killing intent. Everything has to be done step by step. Do you understand this principle? Duguya looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng understood the meaning behind Duguya's words. He nodded. I understand. Lin Feng took a deep breath and said, Uncle Dugu, can we talk about my mother and uncle? Your mother and uncle are descendants of the Sovereign Emperor clan. I witnessed the love between your mother and father, and I also witnessed your birth. When the living beings from the previous epoch attacked, you were born. Duguya sighed. Duguya sighed. At that time, more than a dozen of us were there. We were all your father's best friends and followers. That battle was too tragic. Your father was ambushed and planted with a demonic seed. At that time, he had already turned demonic. We broke out of the encirclement, but in the end, we were unable to withstand the attacks of the creatures from the previous era. During the process of breaking out, your mother was injured and captured. We were chased all the way. Later on, your father woke up, but the demonic seed nearly destroyed his body. Before we arrived at the 9 provinces, they caught up to us again. Your uncle brought up the rear with a few others while I brought your father and you back to the 9 provinces. Later on, your uncle and a few others were killed. Uncle and the other seniors died in the cold, starry sky. Just like that, Lin Feng clenched his fists. He felt like his chest was about to explode. This was an unforgettable hatred. If he didn't kill the living beings from the previous epoch, he wouldn't be human. With my father's cultivation and his grasp of the Tao of destiny, who could possibly plot against him? Lin Feng's expression was gloomy, a terrifying person. He hid his identity and hid by your father's side. Duguya said, "Who is he?" Lin Feng asked through gritted teeth. Clearly, that person had gained his father's trust. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to plot against his father. If it wasn't for that person, his mother might not have been suppressed, and his uncle and the other seniors might not have died so tragically. His father wouldn't have been planted with a demonic seed. The culprit behind all of this was that person. Duguya's eyes flashed with dense killing intent. The son of the celestial emperor, Di Wudao. Chapter 26:32. Di Wudao. Di Wudao. Lin Feng muttered the name, his fingernails digging into his flesh. This person really deserved to be killed. Lin Feng wanted to cut Di Wudao into pieces. He wanted to avenge his father, his mother, his uncle, and all the other elders who had died. However, Lin Feng knew that his cultivation was far from enough. Di Wudao was the son of the celestial emperor, who knew how terrifying his cultivation would be. Lin Feng wanted to become stronger. Only with enough strength could he kill Di Wudao. One could imagine how difficult it would be to kill Di Wudao in the future. Once he killed Di Wudao, it would cause a huge commotion. He would definitely become the enemy of the celestial emperor. He might even become the enemy of the entire undying world. After all, the celestial emperor was the leader of the undying world. So what if he became the enemy of the celestial emperor and the undying world? Di Wudao. He would definitely kill him. Uncle Dugu, I want to raise my cultivation as soon as possible. Is there any way for me to raise my cultivation as soon as possible? Lin Feng asked Duguya. Duguya's 6 paths of reincarnation had instantly killed the captain of the Boat of Curses and destroyed it. It was clear how powerful Duguya was. Back then, his father had told him to find Duguya and cultivate under him. It was not without reason. Duguya said, I know you're eager to raise your cultivation, but your cultivation hasn't stabilized yet. Cultivate here for 3 months first. After 3 months, I'll send you to a place where you'll be able to obtain great training. Of course, that place is also incomparably dangerous. If you're not careful, you might die there. So right now, you need to properly adjust your state and prepare to head to that dangerous place to cultivate. Okay, Lin Feng nodded. For the next 3 months, Lin Feng cultivated in Duguya's cave. These 3 months were extremely important to Lin Feng. For many Daos that he did not understand, Lin Feng would consult Duguya. With Duguya's cultivation level, it wasn't difficult for him to give Lin Feng pointers. Therefore, during those 3 months, Lin Feng had become extremely strong. Lin Feng benefited greatly, while Lin Feng was in seclusion. The outside world, however, was not calm at all. After the foreign creature recovered from its injuries, it left the southern immortal devil realm and entered the southern immortal sea domain. The blood-winged heavenly wolf clan's top-level experts went to kill the foreign creatures. This was because the blood-winged heavenly wolf clan cultivators suspected that Lung Qinya was killed by the foreign creatures. Lung Qinya was a heaven-defying genius of the blood-winged heavenly wolf clan. He was the hope of the blood-winged heavenly wolf clan's future. The blood-winged heavenly wolf clan was still waiting for Lung Qinya to mature and lead the blood-winged heavenly wolf clan to new glory. However, Lung Qinya was killed before he could grow. The blood-winged heavenly wolf clan was naturally furious. Right now, the blood-winged heavenly wolf clan's cultivators really wanted to tear these foreign creatures into 10,000 pieces. After being surrounded by the blood-winged heavenly wolf clan's experts, the foreign creature still had an indifferent expression. "I didn't kill Lung Qinya," the foreign creature said coldly. The blood-winged heavenly wolf clan's cultivators didn't listen to the foreign creature's explanation at all. After a great battle, the foreign creature had killed 5 great experts of the blood-winged heavenly wolf clan. The remaining 4 blood-winged heavenly wolf clan experts were also injured. The foreign creature's cultivation was too terrifying. He killed until the blood-winged heavenly wolf clan's cultivators trembled in fear. The foreign creature did not continue to attack the other 4 surviving blood-winged heavenly wolf clan cultivators. He said with an indifferent expression, "If my guess is correct, Lung Qinya should have been killed by Lin Feng." The foreign creature's words caused a huge uproar. Some people doubted the authenticity of this matter, but many people believed that it was true. This was because the foreign creature was very arrogant. Such an existence would definitely not lie. There was no need to lie. Lung Qinya was a heaven-defying genius, but he actually died at the hands of Lin Feng. Just how powerful is Lin Feng's cultivation? That's right. It's really hard to imagine how terrifying Lin Feng's cultivation is. If Lin Feng can kill Lung Qinya among the heaven-defying geniuses of the myriad races, there are probably less than 10 people who can contend against Lin Feng. Countless people were talking about this matter. The cultivators of the 9 provinces were naturally overjoyed. The cultivators of the myriad races had gloomy expressions. Lin Feng had become the public enemy of the myriad races. The cultivators of the myriad races couldn't wait to cut Lin Feng into 1,000 pieces. The blood-winged heavenly wolf clan began to search for Lin Feng's whereabouts. The myriad races also helped the blood-winged heavenly wolf clan search for Lin Feng's whereabouts. However, Lin Feng was currently in seclusion in Duguya's cave abode. Therefore, no matter how they searched for Lin Feng's whereabouts, they couldn't find any clues. The foreign creatures were also searching for Lin Feng's whereabouts. This was because they hated Lin Feng to the core and wanted to eat Lin Feng. Southern Immortal Devil Realm. Great Desolate Devil Mountain. This was an extremely dangerous place. It was said that a devil emperor was once buried here. This place even formed a magnetic field. Once one entered, it was very easy to get lost. In the end, he died and his Tao vanished. In the depths of the great desolate Devil Mountain, there was a pool of blood. A cultivator was lying in the pool of blood. It was Gong Ziyu. Previously, Gong Ziyu had been seriously injured by Gong Zini. Although Gong Ziyu had used the magic lotus to escape, Gong Ziyu had suffered extremely serious injuries. That kind of injury had caused him to fall into a coma. The magic lotus brought Gong Ziyu to the pool of blood. It was the ancient blood of the emperor, the blood of the holy emperor. Gong Ziyu had been lying inside for 3 months. Every day, His body was nourished by the blood of the holy emperor. Gongziyu's body quickly recovered, but he did not wake up. For Gongziyu, this could be said to be a great opportunity. In his slumber, he had obtained the inheritance of the fallen emperor. Swoosh, swoosh. Suddenly, Gongziyu opened his eyes. His eyes became incomparably deep. His body slowly floated up from the pool of blood. In the end, Gongziyu's body floated in the air. Then, the blood in the pool of blood quickly flew up. The blood all flowed into Gongziyu's body. All the blood. It was all absorbed by Gongziyu. In the end, it turned into the blood in Gongziyu's body. A terrifying aura was emitted from Gongziyu's body. Gongziyu had completed an important transformation. He had obtained the inheritance of the fallen emperor. He had devoured the blood of the holy emperor. Gongziyu's cultivation. It had increased greatly. The heavens have not left me, Gongziyu muttered to himself. He quickly soared into the sky and flew out of the great, desolate demon mountain. Within the southern immortal demon realm, it was still very lively. Many people had obtained great opportunities. For example, the great demon god, Little Donkey, Fatso, Demon Blood, by Wanyu, and others. Gongzi Nye of the myriad races, Nalen Hanyue, Huang Yanma, the son of the Sky Demon Emperor, and others had also obtained great opportunities. The creatures in the black fog and the foreign creatures walked out of the southern immortal demon realm and began to recruit forces in the 9 provinces. Chapter 26:33. Now, the 9 regions had become very chaotic. First of all, the native forces of the 9 regions. In addition, there were the forces of the myriad races, the forces of the outer realms, the creatures in the black fog, and so on. They all wanted to occupy a place in the 9 regions. There was a reason why these forces valued the 9 regions so much. The current 9 regions had indeed declined. However, in the past, the 9 regions was an amazing place. Pangu, Niwa, Zhurong, Gonggong, the 12 ancestral shamans, and so on. They were all innate life forms who had awakened from the 9 regions. The 9 regions was also a holy land for cultivation at that time, and it was said that the 9 regions was the starting point of the myriad worlds. It meant that the 9 regions was the first great world to appear in the myriad worlds. That was why it could be called the origin of the myriad worlds. Therefore, the 9 regions was once a holy land for cultivation. Even the immortal race and celestial race who were now informing the heaven realm had entered the heaven realm from the 9 regions. Because the immortal race and celestial race were the earliest human races. However, after the human race was divided, they no longer admitted that they were humans. Now, the 5 decay of the celestial race had appeared. Next was the destruction of the era. As the saying goes, if you want to kill someone, you must first make them crazy. The 9 regions was now in an era where cultivation was declining. Before the destruction of the era, there would definitely be a golden age of cultivation. And this golden age of cultivation would begin in the 9 regions. It would quickly spread to the myriad worlds. The most dazzling era of cultivation was about to arrive. This was the last golden age of cultivation before the destruction of the era. The people from the major powers also saw this point, so they started to make arrangements. They would establish their own forces in the 9 regions. Then, they would wait for the golden age of cultivation to arrive. Lin Feng could even not leave the 9 regions. He could wait for the golden age of cultivation to arrive in the 9 regions. Once the golden age of cultivation arrived, countless opportunities would descend. In the 9 regions, he could also become an emperor or an immortal. But obviously, Lin Feng could not stay in the 9 regions forever, because he was shouldering many responsibilities, rescuing his mother, looking for his kidnapped clansmen. Every task, they were all extremely important, but Obviously, these tasks were important to Lin Feng. They were all extremely difficult. This also meant that he would soon leave the 9 regions and head to a wider world to improve his cultivation. Lin Feng couldn't wait for the golden age of cultivation to arrive. 9 regions began to fall into chaos during this time. As for Lin Feng, he followed Duguya to the cultivation grounds, the southernmost part of the southern immortal sea domain. This was an endless world of glaciers. It was extremely cold. In the depths of the glacier world, it was the famous Aurora Crack of the 9 states world. That place was filled with the power of destruction. Huge space-time rifts connected many mysterious worlds. That kind of place was untouchable. Once one entered, they might not be able to come out again. First, it was very likely that it would be destroyed by the space-time energy. Secondly, it was very likely that he would enter another unknown world. Many unknown worlds were desolate worlds, and no one knew which corner of the starry sky world they were in. Once he fell into it, it was very likely that he would never come out again. The training ground is a mysterious space. There are many opportunities in this space. The biggest secret is the path to heaven. The path to heaven is connected to the undying world, heaven realm, underworld, chaos, Xianhuang world, and other worlds. Duguya said, "There's such a place." Lin Feng's face was filled with shock. He said, "If it's connected to so many worlds, doesn't that mean one can enter another world through the immortal path to heaven?" Duguya said, "That space is very special. At present, only the soul can descend there. After the soul descends, it will transform into a complete body. In that space, if one's cultivation breaks through in the real world, it will also break through in the real world. However, if one dies there, they will also die in the real world." Hearing Duguya's words, Lin Feng could not help but be shocked. That space was truly a strange place. If only the soul could descend there. Naturally, one would not be able to enter another world through the immortal path to heaven. Once the connection between the soul and the physical body was severed, the soul would scatter, and one would die without a burial place. Lin Feng said, "How can I return to the real world?" Duguya said, "I will use my great power to send you there. For the next year, you can cultivate there, and you can also spar with the young experts of various worlds. After a year, I will connect to that mysterious space again and bring you out, allowing your soul to return." "All right, then I'll have to trouble Uncle Dugu," Lin Feng said. Duguya smiled and said, "There's no need to be so courteous between uncle and nephew. Come with me. I've opened a dojo in a parallel space, and it's perfect for storing your physical body. During this year, I will protect your physical body." Duguya flew toward the space-time rift. Lin Feng followed closely behind. Soon, they entered the space-time rift. Lin Feng followed Duguya into the parallel space. There was a dojo that Duguya had created. The dojo covered a huge dojo. The dojo was covered with many formation runes, and those runes were extremely powerful. Lin Feng guessed that those formation runes were related to entering that mysterious space. "Sit at the center of the dojo." Duguya looked at Lin Feng and said, "Yes." Lin Feng replied. Then he went to the center of the dojo and sat down. Duguya then activated the dojo. All of the formation runes were activated. Waves of sacred light surged out, enveloping Lin Feng within. Then Lin Feng felt his soul leave his body. He was enveloped by sacred light. The next moment, the sacred light tore through the void and disappeared. After a moment of dizziness, the sacred light descended into a mysterious space. This space was extremely unstable, and the power of space-time was everywhere. The immortal path to heaven was one of the space's greatest secrets, but it wasn't the only secret. There were many other extraordinary places in this space. The sacred light gradually dissipated. Lin Feng's soul transformed into a perfect body. This perfect body was almost exactly the same as his. Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh with emotion. This space was truly miraculous. To be able to condense such a perfect body, it was practically no different from a real body. It was truly inconceivable. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the world. A huge bird of prey flew over from afar. That ferocious bird had the body of an eagle, but it had 9 wolf heads. It was unknown what race it was. Chapter 2634. What kind of monster is this? Lin Feng couldn't help but shout as he hurriedly dodged the monster's attack. The ferocious bird was extremely fast, and its reaction was also extremely fast. The moment Lin Feng dodged its attack, the ferocious bird opened its bloody mouth. Then each of its bloody mouths spat out a ball of energy. The power of the ball of energy was extremely terrifying. It was as if it could destroy the world. One by one, the balls of energy exploded. Lin Feng was sent flying by the explosion. He didn't know how many bones in his body were broken. His body was covered in wounds and dripping with blood. The situation was really bad. Damn, so powerful. Lin Feng's face was about to turn green. The ferocious bird he encountered when he just entered was actually so powerful and terrifying. He didn't know if it was because the birds and beasts in this place were so powerful, or because he was just unlucky to encounter an unusually powerful ferocious bird. The ferocious bird quickly changed its direction and pounced on Lin Feng again. Its wings flapped in the void. In an instant, the void seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. The ferocious bird displayed shocking attack power. Lin Feng quickly retreated, constantly dodging the ferocious bird's attacks. However, no matter how he dodged the ferocious bird's attacks, he couldn't shake off the ferocious bird. "You really think I'm a sick cat if I don't show my power?" Lin Feng shouted fiercely, then took the initiative to attack the ferocious bird. The two sides fought fiercely for thousands of rounds. Lin Feng's injuries were very serious, but he succeeded in killing the ferocious bird. This made Lin Feng sigh in relief. Lin Feng activated his immortal divine body, and his injuries quickly recovered. Then he carried the ferocious bird and quickly rushed into the distance. Next to a pond, there was a beautiful scenery with a waterfall. Lin Feng took a bath to his heart's content. Then he dissected the ferocious bird and cleaned it up. He then cut off the 9 wolf heads and threw them to the side. Next, he set up a bonfire and began to cook delicious barbecue. 2 hours later, the smell of meat assailed his nostrils. It was really appetizing. "Let's fill our stomachs first." Lin Feng started gobbling down the meat and drinking the wine. He had been cultivating with duguya for the past few months. An expert at duguya's level didn't need much food. Therefore, Lin Feng was too embarrassed to cook all kinds of delicacies in duguya's cave. Therefore, during this period of time, Lin Feng was extremely hungry. Now, Lin Feng could finally enjoy the delicacies. After a full meal, Lin Feng rested for a while, and then began to walk through this huge space. The biggest secret of this space was the heavenly immortal path. Of course, Lin Feng didn't know where this heavenly immortal path was. He needed to find it himself. One day later, Lin Feng saw more than 10 cultivators. The group of cultivators also saw Lin Feng. "Brat, come here." One of the young cultivators stretched out his right hand, beckoning Lin Feng over. Lin Feng couldn't help but feel disgusted by that arrogant and haughty attitude. Those people probably came from another world. Lin Feng wasn't very clear about their origins. Of course, Lin Feng wasn't interested in their origins. Now, Lin Feng's thoughts were on finding opportunities, the heavenly immortal path, and increasing his cultivation. Lin Feng still hoped to greatly increase his cultivation here. Lin Feng's goal was to break through to the giant god realm. He hoped to be able to do it on the heavenly immortal path. With Lin Feng's accumulation, once he broke through to the giant god realm, he would be invincible. Even those high-level quasi-emperors could be easily killed. He didn't pay attention to that cultivator. Instead, he flew into the distance. The young cultivator's face immediately turned gloomy. He waved his hand, and then quickly flew toward Lin Feng with a group of companions. Soon, they blocked Lin Feng's path. "Brat, didn't you hear me when I told you to go over?" A cold light flashed in the young cultivator's eyes. Lin Feng said indifferently, "So, what if I heard? So, what if I didn't hear? You need something from me? If you need something from me, you should be the one coming over." "Brat, you're quite arrogant." The young cultivator looked at Lin Feng with a gloomy expression. He already had the intention to kill Lin Feng. The cultivators, in this space, all came from different worlds. Therefore, there was no need to care about anything. If there was a disagreement, they could just directly kill him. "Get lost. Don't you know that a good dog doesn't block the way?" Lin Feng said with a sneer. This sentence caused an uproar. The group of cultivators looked at Lin Feng with more and more sinister eyes. "Arrogant! You dare to be so arrogant in front of us? You're simply courting death." "Brat, have you thought about how you're going to die?" The group of cultivators looked at Lin Feng fiercely. Everyone looked at Lin Feng as if they were looking at a dead man. Those who could enter this world clearly had extraordinary forces behind them. Therefore, these cultivators knew that anyone who could enter this place had mastered many powerful divine abilities. It was impossible to bring storage rings or magic treasures into this space. Therefore, the only things one could obtain from other cultivators were divine abilities. Of course, the allure of a divine ability was much greater than that of a magic treasure. In such a place, it was very dangerous to be alone. Therefore, when this group of people saw that Lin Feng was alone, they already had the intention to kill Lin Feng. However, they didn't expect that, surprisingly, Lin Feng was acting so arrogantly. He didn't put them in his eyes at all. "A bunch of trash dares to jump around in front of me? Who gave you the courage?" Lin Feng curled his lips and asked. Lin Feng's personality had always been strong. Although Lin Feng didn't take the initiative to provoke others, if anyone provoked him, Lin Feng would definitely not tolerate it. "Brat, you're courting death. Kill this brat." A group of cultivators glared at Lin Feng with murderous intent. In the distance, many cultivators were also looking over. However, those cultivators were basically gathered in groups. Very few of them were alone. Obviously, the cultivators here had formed teams. It was safer to act together. "Aren't those people from the Yin-Yang world? Those guys are very arrogant." The Yin-Yang world is ranked 11th among the 3,000 worlds. There are many experts there. That brat is alone. Now that he has been targeted by the cultivators of the Yin-Yang world, I'm afraid he's going to die. Seeing that group of cultivators attacking Lin Feng, many people suddenly exclaimed. They looked at Lin Feng as if they were looking at a dead man. Chapter 26:35. The Yin-Yang Great World was said to be a great world evolved from the great Tao of Yin and Yang. The cultivators born in this world were very special. It was said that the cultivators of this world would form an Yin-Yang fish in their dantian. This Yin-Yang fish could absorb Yin-Yang Qi day and night to improve their cultivation. This Yin-Yang fish was very similar to the martial soul of the human cultivators of 9 provinces. There were tens of thousands of martial souls. There were also tens of thousands of Yin-Yang fish. Boom, boom, boom. A terrifying aura filled the void. A group of cultivators from the Yin-Yang Great World launched a violent attack on Lin Feng. Each of their attacks was extremely ruthless. They were all aiming to take Lin Feng's life. These people originally wanted to capture Lin Feng and interrogate him about the divine powers he had learned. However, they no longer had the mood to do so. They were only thinking about how to torture Lin Feng. Watching Lin Feng die tragically in front of them was what they wanted to do the most. Even ants drag out their lives. You bunch of trash are courting death. Lin Feng curled his lips with a disdainful expression. That guy is really arrogant. Many people sighed with emotion. A thought suddenly appeared in many people's minds. That brat might really be very powerful, right? Otherwise, how could he be so arrogant? Those who were powerful were arrogant. That was not arrogant. That was domineering. That was domineering. Boom! Lin Feng's body emitted a powerful aura. He directly used the epic domineering aura to envelop everyone. After being enveloped by the epic domineering aura, the cultivators felt as if they had fallen into a quagmire, and their speed decreased sharply. Lin Feng, on the other hand, raised his right hand as if he was taking a stroll in the park and slashed out one sword chi after another. Puff, puff, puff. Next, heads flew into the sky one after another. Blood spurted out. One cultivator after another was killed under Lin Feng's attack without even having the strength to resist. Oh my God, he's so strong? The group of people in the yin-yang world have kicked an iron plate. With such powerful cultivation, they are actually active in the peripheral area. That guy is pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. Many people couldn't help but cry out in surprise, looking at Lin Feng with eyes full of deep shock. The strength that Lin Feng displayed was too terrifying. It shocked many people and made many people feel as if there were raging waves in their hearts. Spare us. We have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. Please spare us, young master. The remaining cultivators begged. A bunch of ants dares to provoke me? How can I forgive you? Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. Streams of sword chi continued to slash out. Puff, puff, puff. Heads fell to the ground one after another. We are from the yin-yang world. If you kill us, the 5 masters of the yin-yang world will definitely kill you to avenge us. A cultivator shouted, wanting to threaten Lin Feng. I'll wait for the arrival of the 5 great experts. When the time comes, I'll kill them all. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. A stream of sword chi slashed out, killing all the cultivators who spoke. Soon, more than a dozen cultivators from the yin-yang world were killed by Lin Feng. These cultivators were the physical bodies condensed from the laws of heaven and earth in this space. Therefore, after they were killed, their physical bodies disappeared. Only the purest soul origin was left. After killing these people, Lin Feng directly devoured their soul origin. Ever since Lin Feng's soul entered the quasi-emperor realm, it had become extremely difficult for it to improve. However, after devouring the soul power of these cultivators, Lin Feng realized that his soul strength had increased by quite a bit. Lin Feng used the soul-searching technique to search the soul memories of these cultivators. He obtained a lot of information from these cultivators' souls, including information about the 5 great experts and many things about the yin-yang world. At the same time, he also obtained many magic skills that these cultivators cultivated. These people actually cultivated the great yin-yang technique, one of the 3,000 great Daos. In addition to the great yin-yang technique, they also cultivated many powerful magic skills. Unfortunately, they did not cultivate the other 3,000 great Daos. A single Dao. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown slightly. There were many types of Dao validation. Cultivators of the 9 provinces usually cultivated as many of the 3,000 great Daos as possible as the foundation for identifying great Daos. However, There were also some worlds that didn't cultivate like this. They cultivated a single Tao. They cultivated this Tao to the extreme. No matter which method, one could achieve extraordinary results. Brother, our team has information about several cave abodes. If you join our team, we can share the treasures with everyone. Young master, would you like to join my team? You see, there are so many beauties here. Many of them are secretly in love with you and can let you do whatever you want. Seeing how powerful Lin Feng was, many people surrounded him. One by one, the teams sent out invitations to Lin Feng. Some teams offered great benefits. Some teams wanted to use beauty to seduce Lin Feng. However, Lin Feng was unmoved. He said, "I'm sorry, everyone. I don't have any plans to join other teams. I'm used to being alone." Lin Feng cupped his fists and quickly left. What a pity, what a pity. If we could recruit this person, we would be like a tiger that had grown wings. Many people felt that it was a pity. After Lin Feng left, he rushed towards the depths of this space. When he was searching the memories of that group of cultivators, he found a very important piece of information. This group of people had discovered a mysterious place. However, that mysterious place was densely covered with restrictions, and they were unable to enter. Therefore, they planned to find some helpers. Through those people's memories, Lin Feng knew that this space was full of opportunities. The more dangerous a place was, the more extraordinary the opportunities would be. Therefore, Lin Feng felt that the place in the memories of this group of cultivators might be hiding some secrets. That area was in the depths of an ancient forest. 3 days later, Lin Feng arrived at that place. He saw a world of rolling black fog in the depths of the ancient forest. A gloomy aura spread out from it. Powerful restrictions caused the void in the area covered by the black fog to distort. That area was indeed very dangerous. Wanting to pass through that area was not an easy task. However, Lin Feng was proficient in formations. He successfully passed through that very dangerous area. After passing through the restriction, they saw 7 huge mountains that rose and fell in front of them. At the center of the mountains, there was an ancient tree. It was unknown what kind of ancient tree it was. The huge tree was 30,000 meters tall. Its branches extended out and covered an area of 15 kilometers. Such a big tree? What kind of tree is this? Lin Feng looked at the ancient tree from afar. His heart was filled with shock. Such a huge, ancient tree definitely hid a shocking secret. Chapter 2636. The woman was dressed in white, and she looked like a fairy. Her sword was like a white rainbow streaking across the sky, stabbing towards Lin Feng. It was extremely powerful. Lin Feng quickly dodged the sword. Then he slapped out with his palm, sending the woman flying. However, the woman's body dissipated immediately. She's not a person, but a spiritual aura manifested by sword energy. Lin Feng couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. He continued flying deeper into the mountain range. That's the 7 stars piercing the sun. Lin Feng looked at the 7 mountains in shock. The 7 mountain peaks were like 7 stars. All the starlight gathered together. Then they surrounded one place. They surrounded and protected the huge ancient tree in the most central position. Starlight constantly fell from the 9 heavens, which was then devoured by the ancient tree. He didn't know what kind of ancient tree it was. However, Lin Feng felt that the ancient tree contained an unimaginable amount of vitality. He was starting to wonder if the ancient tree was the Jianmu tree. However, Lin Feng thought that it shouldn't be a builder tree. He had cultivated a builder tree sapling, and its aura was completely different from this ancient tree. Finally, Lin Feng landed in the mountain range. He saw a huge stone statue. It was a stone statue of a woman. The woman was very beautiful. She was dressed in white, and she looked like a fairy who had fallen from the 9 heavens. Lin Feng was very surprised when he saw the woman. He felt like he had seen her somewhere before. Why does this stone statue give me such a strong sense of familiarity? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. He carefully recalled some of the beautiful women he had seen in the past few years. However, after searching through his memories, he couldn't find any. Lin Feng was very puzzled. If it was really a woman he had seen before, it shouldn't be like this. Lin Feng stroked his chin. Right, I remember who this woman is. She's the Empyrean Maiden. She's the Empyrean Maiden. Lin Feng couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. He recalled the woman's identity. This woman was exactly the same as the fairy of the 9th heaven in the portrait he had obtained. After all, the Empyrean fairy was a connate life form, nurtured by heaven and earth. His strength was incomparably powerful. The classic of mountains and seas, the mystical maiden of the 9 heavens, also known as the mystical maiden, is commonly known as the goddess of the 9 heavens, the mystical maiden of the 9 heavens, the mystical maiden of the 9 heavens, and the mystical mother of the 9 heavens. She was originally the goddess of war. Later, she was worshipped by Taoism as a high-level female immortal and the god of divination. She was a god of justice who was well-versed in military strategies and spells. There were scriptures such as the 9 heavens Maiden's True Scripture for curing the heart and eliminating sin that were handed down to enlighten the people. There were very few records about the Empyrean Maiden, so Lin Feng knew very little about her. All he knew was that she was an extraordinarily terrifying existence. Otherwise, she wouldn't be on the same side as Niuhua, Pangu, Fuxi, Suiren, and the forefathers of the sovereign clans. Of course, Lin Feng didn't know much about the Empyrean Maiden. Everything he knew about the fairy of the 9 heavens came from the classic of mountains and seas. What does it mean for a statue of the Empyrean Maiden to appear here? What does it mean? Lin Feng couldn't help but murmur to himself. He had a feeling that there was more to the statue than met the eye. Could it be that the Empyrean Maiden's inheritance was here? Lin Feng felt his heart race at the thought of this. The Empyrean Maiden was a heavyweight among the Xiantian life forms. Lin Feng wasn't from that era, so he didn't know what her cultivation was like. However, he guessed that she should be around the same level as Pangu, Niuhua, and Suiren. Therefore, if he could obtain the Empyrean Maiden's inheritance, it would be too heaven-defying. Lin Feng's consciousness surged out. It enveloped the statue of the Empyrean Maiden, looking back for 1,000 lifetimes, falling into oblivion for 1,000,000,000,000 lifetimes, and the collapse of all Daos will be the day of return. A mysterious voice suddenly rang out in Lin Feng's mind. It was a woman's voice. Lin Feng was stunned. Could that woman's voice be the Empyrean Maiden's? The world spun, and Lin Feng found himself in an ancient world. The sound of a zither lingered in the air. Lush green grass. A man shrouded in flames flew over from afar. He was fire god Zhurong, the first fire god, a connate life form born of flames. Mist filled the air in the distance, and a man stood within it. He was Gonggong, the first water god, a connate life form born of rivers. Though they were called gods, they were still immortals. In truth, their cultivation had long since reached the realm of immortals. A man in white robes arrived. He was Suiren, one of the first ancestors of the human race. Another man in robes embroidered with the 8 trigrams arrived. He was Fuxi, one of the first ancestors of the human race. They belonged to the connate human race. They were the most primitive and ancient of the human race. Not long after, a man with an enormous axe arrived. It was Pangu. Soon, Niuhua arrived as well. Immortal music, filled the air as a woman flew over. It was the Empyrean maiden. She was playing her zither. The cultivators who were qualified to come here to listen to the zither were all extraordinary. The sound of the mysterious maiden of the nine heavens was very beautiful. After the song ended, the nine heavens maiden was dejected. "Why are you sad, fairy?" asked fire god Jurong. She shook her head and sighed, but didn't say anything. The scene in front of her suddenly vanished. The nine heavens maiden arrived at an immortal mountain. A man appeared. When he saw the man, Lin Feng was stunned. Wasn't that the ancestor of the sovereign clan? In the portrait, there was an ancestor with a peace sign, looking very frivolous. "Empyrean maiden, the world is about to change." "I'm leaving," said the ancestor. He was usually carefree, but now he was frowning. "Are you leaving to avoid me?" asked the Empyrean maiden. "Don't overthink it." The old ancestor of the sovereign clan said. The scene in front of her vanished. Lin Feng returned to the real world. Lin Feng was still in a daze. The Empyrean maiden used to admire the ancestor of the sovereign clan, but the ancestor of the sovereign clan didn't have any feelings for her. Lin Feng couldn't help but rub his head. It turned out that even the most powerful existences had feelings for each other. It seemed that no one could sever their 7 emotions and 6 desires. This had nothing to do with strength. It didn't matter. Keek, so it's the successor of the sovereign clan. Did you come here to die? Bursts of eerie laughter suddenly resounded between heaven and earth. Who is it? Chapter 26:37. Brat, no need to be so nervous. I'm not a threat to you. That voice resounded again. If you're not a threat, then why did you say that I'm here to die? Said Lin Feng coldly. Of course, he didn't believe the mysterious spirit so easily. One had to be wary of others. Lin Feng knew this very well. Sometimes one had to be careful or they wouldn't even know how they died. The world of cultivators was full of scheming and scheming. I'm not a threat to you, but the nine heavens maiden is. That mysterious existence said. I didn't offend the fairy of the ninth heaven, and she doesn't know me. We don't have any interactions, so how could she be a threat to me? Plus, she's been dead for who knows how many years. How could she be a threat to me? Lin Feng couldn't help but smile coldly. Xian Envy of the nine heavens has 3 stages in her life. The first stage is pure and kind. In that stage, as you saw before, she fell in love with a man. But as the saying goes, the falling flower is in love with the flowing water, but the flowing water is not. In the second stage, the world fell into turmoil. Various powerful forces sprang up like bamboo shoots after the rain. The nine heavens maiden was no longer the pure and kind maiden of the nine heavens. Her ambition began to swell, so she built her own immortal's kingdom. You should know that a lot of things had to happen to build such a huge immortal's kingdom. Therefore, during this stage, the nine heavens maiden became very decisive. Her hands were stained with the blood of countless practitioners. She had completely changed. She became a person who was extremely greedy for power and would do anything to achieve her goal. In the third stage, the nine heavens maiden has already become a paragon. There aren't many people in the world who can stand up to her. She thinks about the past and also about your ancestor. He was the only one who dared to refuse her. At this stage, the nine heavens maiden is lofty and lofty. She can't tolerate even a speck of sand in her eyes. Your ancestor refused her, and her love for him turned into hatred. Because of that, she hates the sovereign clan. Lin Feng frowned. He hadn't thought that Xian Nu of the Nine Skies would have experienced so many things in her life. Many things were incredible. It was even somewhat inconceivable. His hatred for the sovereign race was inexplicable. When it came to matters of the heart, it had always been consensual. Was it necessary to hate others? And then, what happened? Lin Feng asked. The mysterious being continued. At that time, the Nine Heavens maiden gave the order to search for your ancestor, but she couldn't find him. Later on, there were rumors that a descendant of the sovereign emperor clan had appeared. Obviously, your ancestor had a wife. This made the Nine Heavens maiden extremely jealous. She began to unite many forces to search for the descendant of the sovereign emperor clan, but in the end, she couldn't find him. It was said that the Nine Heavens maiden encountered a problem in her cultivation, so she used the Nine Heavens maiden technique to reincarnate and cultivate again. Ordinary corpse dismemberment techniques can also allow cultivators to reincarnate and cultivate again. In the future, they might be able to recover the memories of their previous life. Then, they'll be able to remember all sorts of powerful spells. It's like cultivating again. Of course, as a peerless cultivator, once they recover the memories of their previous life, they'll be able to cultivate again extremely quickly. Their talent will also be extremely shocking. But it's not easy to recover the memories of one's previous life. Not only is it not easy, but it's also extremely difficult. In the end, the cultivator will die, but they won't be able to recover the memories of their previous life. If they can recover the memories of their previous life, they'll become what we call a reincarnation. The Nine Heavens Maiden's Nine Heavens Maiden technique is a corpse dismemberment technique that can recover the memories of one's previous life. It's extremely terrifying. The mysterious being continued. It's said that the Nine Heavens Maiden's corpse dismemberment technique divides her soul into 9, and she'll be reincarnated into 9 women. Those 9 women each have a part of the Nine Heavens Maiden's memories and a part of her strength. Those women are all peerless beauties. When they meet, they'll fight to the death and steal each other's memories. In the end, only one of the 9 will survive, and that person will recover the Nine Heavens Maiden's memories. She'll be the Nine Heavens Maiden's reincarnation. Lin Feng said, "That sounds incredible. Has the Nine Heavens Maiden returned from her reincarnation?" The mysterious being said, "Who knows? Maybe she succeeded, but it's been too long since then." Lin Feng rolled his eyes and said, "You've said so much, but it doesn't seem to have anything to do with the fact that I'm here to die." The mysterious being said, "Of course it has something to do with it. Do you see that ancient tree? It's said that the Nine Heavens Maiden personally planted that ancient tree. It already has the Nine Heavens Maiden's imprint. The ancient tree has a spirit. When it senses your arrival, it'll definitely try its best to kill you." Rumble! As soon as the mysterious being finished speaking, the earth began to shake violently. Lin Feng looked into the distance and saw that the ancient tree had begun to sway. Every time it swayed, it was as if the earth was shaking. Do you see that? The ancient tree is recovering. It's too late for you to leave now. You're dead. That mysterious existence said, as though he was gloating over Lin Feng's misfortune. People from the sovereign imperial clan. People from the sovereign imperial clan are here. Back then, Her Highness, the Empress prophesied that people from the sovereign imperial clan would come here in the future. The Empress prophecy came true. A deep voice resounded between heaven and earth. The thick branches twisted in the void, like tentacles. Lin Feng frowned. He could feel a cold, killing intent from the ancient tree. It was just as the mysterious existence had said. This ancient tree wanted to kill him. Boom! A thick branch whipped towards Lin Feng. That branch was like a mountain range as it lashed out viciously. Even the void was shattered. The power of that attack was simply too terrifying. It was so powerful that it made Lin Feng's heart palpitate. Lin Feng quickly dodged the terrifying attack. Pa, pa, pa. But just then, the branches began to dance one after another. It was as though mountains were crashing down one after another. Naturally, it was impossible for Lin Fan to dodge all of them. Lin Feng channeled the arm of the dragon elephant and slammed it towards the incoming branches. Bam! That tyrannical blow landed on the mountain-like branch. Chapter 2638. What terrifying power! Lin Feng's face was filled with shock. The power contained within the ancient tree was too terrifying. Even his Dracophant arm was unable to contend against it. He really didn't know how terrifyingly powerful that ancient tree was. Rumble! One branch after another lashed out at him. The attacks could be said to be continuous and uninterrupted. Lin Feng was sent flying several times, and his face turned pale. This couldn't go on. Fire restrains wood. I wonder if heavenly fire can restrain this ancient tree. Lin Feng thought of an idea. This ancient tree was extraordinary. Lin Feng wasn't sure if heavenly fire could harm it. He hurriedly brought out his heavenly fire. The flames burned fiercely, instantly enveloping the ancient tree's branches. However, Lin Feng was shocked to see a faint green energy surging out of the ancient tree. He didn't know what kind of energy it was. After being enveloped by the faint green energy, the ancient tree was actually able to resist the heavenly fire. When Lin Feng saw that, he didn't find it strange at all because the tree was too strong. Such a powerful ancient tree would definitely find a way to cultivate some special method to resolve its weakness. Therefore, Lin Feng had already predicted that the ancient tree would have some method to resist his heavenly fire. Rumble! The ancient tree's branches, which were as thick as mountains, continued to smash at Lin Feng. Lin Feng was in a very sorry state as he resisted the attacks of the branches. At the same time, he began to activate another powerful secret art, the Great Curse Art. This technique was very special. Lin Feng felt that he could use the power of curses to harm the ancient tree. The ancient tree's defense was too strong. Ordinary methods couldn't harm the ancient tree. Only a divine ability, like the Great Curse Art, would be able to harm the ancient tree. Lin Feng tried more than 10 times, but he didn't succeed. The probability of successfully activating the Great Curse Art was never very high. Lin Feng was sent flying, and he coughed up a mouthful of blood. The thick branches lashed out again, trying to kill Lin Feng. At this moment, Lin Feng finally succeeded in activating the Great Curse Art. A spluttering sound was heard. A large part of the ancient tree's trunk exploded. The explosion covered an area of 5 to 6 meters. Of course, such an area couldn't do much damage to the ancient tree. However, it broke through the ancient tree's defense. Heavenly fire quickly surged forward, igniting the exposed branches. Whoosh! At this moment, the ancient tree's branches wrapped around Lin Feng. They wanted to strangle Lin Feng. However, this wasn't an easy thing to do. Lin Feng sneered and said, "Before you kill me, I can use at least 7 or 8 moves. Even if you've lived for countless years, your body will be destroyed. This space is so mysterious. Who knows how many terrifying creatures live here? Once you're seriously injured, I think there will be many creatures who want to kill you and take your source. Is this the result you want to see?" After the ancient tree heard this, it didn't let go of Lin Feng. Instead, it used more strength. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. While resisting the branch's damage to his body, he used the burning wrath of the heavens' divine ability to fuse the 4 heavenly fire together. Bang! The 4 heavenly fire exploded. Large parts of the ancient tree's branches were blown apart. However, the ancient tree was too thick. This kind of injury couldn't cause fatal damage to the ancient tree. At this moment, Lin Feng felt that it was getting harder and harder for him to struggle. The ancient tree's power was too terrifying. He couldn't hold on for too long. Thus Lin Feng said coldly, "Since you want to die, let's see who dies first. As long as my soul isn't destroyed, I can return to my body and be reborn. You're different. If your body is destroyed, all your years of cultivation will be for naught." The ancient tree struggled internally for a while. Finally, the branches around Lin Feng began to loosen. The ancient tree wanted to help the Empyrean fairy kill Lin Feng, a descendant of the sovereign emperor clan. However, it didn't have the ability to do so. After the ancient tree released Lin Feng summoned the heavenly fire back. Then, the ancient tree stopped moving. Everything that had just happened seemed like a dream. "Kid, you're quite strong. You actually have 4 heavenly fire." The mysterious voice spoke again. Lin Feng said coldly, "What? Still not going to show yourself? Do you think I don't know who you are? Of the 7 mountains, one of them should have gained sentience, right? If you don't show yourself obediently, I'll destroy the 7 mountains." Impulsiveness is the devil. The voice of the mysterious being had a trace of panic. The 5th mountain suddenly had eyes, a mouth, a nose, and eyebrows. It looked very similar to a human's face. It really turned into a mountain monster. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. "What mountain monster? It's clearly a mountain god, all right? No, it's a mountain immortal." The mysterious being said loudly, refuting Lin Feng's words. However, no matter how one looked at it, it didn't seem very confident. Previously, it was pretending to be mysterious. Now that Lin Feng had seen through it, its true form was revealed. With its cultivation, it naturally couldn't contend against Lin Feng. "What secret is this place hiding?" Lin Feng asked directly. "This ancient tree is extraordinary. It bears many holy fruits. Many powerful beings have entered and plucked the holy fruits. Now, there should be 1 holy fruit left. You can pluck it." The mountain monster said, "Will the ancient tree agree?" Lin Feng asked, "If your strength is recognized by it, it will agree. Anyway, the fruits will be destroyed if you don't consume them. However, if your strength isn't recognized by it, it naturally won't agree. Instead, it will kill those who are not strong enough and want to covet the holy fruit." The mountain monster said. Lin Feng nodded and flew towards the main trunk of the ancient tree. The ancient tree had just submitted to him. This meant that the ancient tree had recognized his strength. Naturally, he could pluck the holy fruits. This ancient tree was planted by Xian Envy of the 9th heaven. Although Lin Feng didn't know its species for it to be able to survive until now, it must be extraordinary. Perhaps it might even be an immortal tree. The holy fruits it bore would definitely have great effects. Perhaps the holy fruits could help him break through again. Thinking of this, Lin Feng couldn't help but feel excited, just as Lin Feng was about to pluck the holy fruits. Suddenly, several figures flew in from outside. Seeing people enter, the mountain monster hurriedly transformed into a mountain, completely concealing itself. There were a total of 10 cultivators flying in. There were both males and females. None of them were ordinary people. There's actually someone here." Exclamations could be heard. The 10 cultivators all landed. Chapter 26:39. While these people were sizing up Lin Feng was sizing them up as well. Although they didn't deliberately show off their strength, Lin Feng was still able to sense them. Even so, Lin Feng could still sense a powerful aura from them. That aura, what surprised Lin Feng was that these people were very strong. Lin Feng had a feeling that they weren't any weaker than the heaven-defying geniuses of the myriad races. Therefore, Lin Feng couldn't help but be curious. Which world were these people from? How could their cultivation be so strong? Of course, This thought only flashed through his mind. Lin Feng ignored them and quickly flew towards the ancient tree. Lin Feng had already seen the sacred fruit on the tree. He quickly plucked the sacred fruit. Then he put it away. That fruit is very ordinary. The group of people was shocked. They were all very knowledgeable and could tell at a glance how extraordinary the sacred fruit Lin Feng had plucked was. Seeing Lin Feng about to leave, a young man in blue stopped Lin Feng. "What is the meaning of this?" Lin Feng asked indifferently. "I want that fruit. Hand it over," the blue-robed cultivator said. The blue-robed cultivator was very handsome, and his figure was also very slender. He was truly an elegant and beautiful man. He looked at Lin Feng indifferently and spoke in an unquestionable tone. Lin Feng sneered. "You want me to give it to you, so I have to give it to you? Who do you think you are? Kid, don't you know how to appreciate favors?" The young man in blue's face suddenly darkened. "In this space, killing people for treasures is a common thing. I only want your sacred fruit, and not your life. That's already a blessing from your ancestors. If you're so shameless, I don't mind taking your dog life right here and now," the young man in blue said as he flicked his sleeves. He spoke casually and looked at Lin Feng with contempt. Obviously, he didn't care about Lin Feng at all. Perhaps, in his eyes, Lin Feng was just a nobody. "You?" Lin Feng couldn't help but sneer. With disdain, the young man in blue's eyes suddenly flashed with a cold-killing intent. At that moment, a woman in purple said, "Just take the treasure. There's no need to kill him." "Sister Sue, this kid disrespected me. He must be killed," the young man in blue said. The woman called Sue, nodded, and didn't say anything else. The young man in blue sneered and looked at Lin Feng. "Kid, have you thought about how you're going to die?" When he finished talking, he walked towards Lin Feng step by step. His chi was becoming more and more powerful. Obviously, he was gathering his magic power to attack. "Do you really think you're someone?" Lin Feng pursed his lips. The young man in blue's face suddenly became extremely gloomy. In his opinion, Lin Feng didn't know what was good for him. Moreover, Lin Feng refuted him repeatedly, which made the young man in blue feel embarrassed. He looked coldly at Lin Feng. "You don't know what's good for you. Don't worry, I won't kill you directly. I'll make you kneel on the ground and take the initiative to hand over the treasure." As soon as he finished speaking, the young man in blue threw a punch at Lin Feng. This punch caused the void to crack. The young man in blue was really powerful. He was definitely an extremely terrifying existence. However, facing the punch from the young man in blue, Lin Feng wasn't afraid at all. He also threw a punch. Hundreds of millions of years passed. Bang! Lin Feng and the young man in blue punched each other, which was accompanied by a dull collision sound. Lin Feng and the young man in blue retreated continuously. Each of them took 3 steps back. Lin Feng was shocked. This person was so powerful. It was rare for a young cultivator to be able to fight him head-on and be on par with him. This space was indeed a space where the top geniuses from all over the world gathered. "Humph!" The young man in blue couldn't help but snort coldly. His eyes became extremely cold. He took a step forward, wanting to attack Lin Feng again. However, at this time, the surrounding young masters and young ladies all looked at the young man in blue in shock. "Brother Zhao, you, a young master pointed at the young man in blue and said in a shocked tone. "What's wrong with me?" the young man in blue asked, curiously. However, he soon felt that something was wrong. This was because he felt the magic power in his body rapidly depleting. The young man in blue looked at his body and found that his skin was rapidly drying up. Not long later, his body became old and frail. What kind of technique is this? The young masters and young ladies were extremely shocked. It made a person age in an instant. This technique was really mysterious and unfathomable. Why is this happening? The young man in blue couldn't help but roar angrily. He was an extremely handsome man and had always been very careful about his image. Now, he had suddenly become an extremely old man. The young man in blue couldn't accept this fact. His eyes became blood red. He looked at Lin Feng with a murderous gaze. "I'll kill you," the young man in blue roared. Then he pounced at Lin Feng. Boom! His body emitted an extremely powerful aura. Then the young man in blue attacked Lin Feng with a palm strike. The shadow of 9 huge dragons appeared on his palm. This divine ability was called 9 Dragon Palms. Condensing 9 true dragons with boundless magic power, it could destroy heaven and earth. With your half-dead appearance, half of your body is about to be buried in the ground, and you still dare to fight with me? You really don't know what's good for you," said Lin Feng, smiling icily. He used a celestial skill, Bestial Chaos, and bombarded the prince in blue clothes. Bang! The 2 sides collided, accompanied by a dull sound of collision. Everyone saw that the young man in blue was directly sent flying. Wah! Then, the young man in blue couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. His face became as pale as paper. Before he landed on the ground, Lin Feng had already arrived beside the young man in blue and swept a punch over. This tyrannical punch swept across the young man in blue. It directly smashed the young man in blue to the ground. Then Lin Feng stepped on the chest of the young man in blue. Impossible! The young man in blue couldn't accept what had happened. He kept struggling. Lin Feng suddenly exerted force. Crack! Crack! The bones in the young man's chest were broken by Lin Feng. Chapter 2640. "Kid, I'm from the Undying Realm. You'd better let me go now, and then kneel on the ground and apologize. Otherwise, you and the faction behind you will be uprooted." The blue-clothed young master looked at Lin Feng with a venomous gaze. "Someone from the Undying Realm?" Lin Feng looked at the blue-clothed young master in shock. He did not expect this person to be from the Undying Realm. It seemed that this blue-clothed young master was a disciple of a big family in the Undying Realm. Ordinary people would probably be scared to death when they heard about the Undying Realm. However, Lin Feng did not care about the so-called Undying Realm at all. In the future, Lin Feng would head to the Undying Realm to kill the son of the Celestial Emperor, Di Wudao. He even dared to kill the son of the Celestial Emperor, let alone a disciple of a big family. "Kid, do you know fear now? Now that you know fear, let go of this young master quickly." Seeing Lin Feng's background, the blue-clothed young master thought that Lin Feng was afraid and said proudly, "As the number 1 of the 3,000 great worlds, the Undying Realm, apart from the 3 supreme realms, no one dared to offend the Undying Realm." The blue-clothed young master was even thinking about how to torture Lin Feng later. However, just as this thought appeared in his mind, suddenly the blue-clothed young master felt pain in his neck. The next moment, his consciousness left his body. The blue-clothed young master's head was chopped off by Lin Feng. The blue-clothed young master's eyes were wide open. He died with a grievance. "You actually killed Zhao Ming." The others looked at Lin Feng with gloomy expressions. They were all from the Undying Realm and had become allies with Zhao Ming. After seeing Lin Feng kill Zhao Ming, many of them wanted to kill Lin Feng. Lin Feng said indifferently, "So what if I killed him? Could it be that you want to fight me as well? Kid, you're too arrogant. There's no need for so many of us. I alone am enough to kill you." A burly cultivator stepped out and looked at Lin Feng with a murderous gaze. It seemed that he wanted to kill Lin Feng. "You're still far from it," Lin Feng said disdainfully. "Arrogant," the cultivator roared, and wanted to kill Lin Feng. "Brother Nangong, wait," the purple-clothed woman called Sue or said. "Sister Sue, are you trying to stop me from killing this person?" the muscular cultivator said. "Brother Nangong, this incident started because young Master Zhao failed to steal the treasure and was killed instead. Let's not get involved in this mess," Sewer said. At this moment, the burly cultivator came back to his senses. He nodded and did not say anything else. Lin Feng collected the soul of the blue-clothed man and left. "Send the news of Zhao Ming's death back to the Undying Realm. Let the Zhao clan deal with this kid. We'll sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight," Sewer said. "Then we'll have a good show to watch." The rest of the people sneered. After Lin Feng left, he found a secluded place and used his divine will to check the blue-clothed man's soul. However, the moment his divine will touched the blue-clothed man's soul, it exploded and dissipated. What a powerful restriction! Lin Feng was shocked. This restriction was obviously set up by the experts of the blue-clothed man's clan in the blue-clothed man's soul. It was to prevent others from investigating the secrets of the blue-clothed man's soul, and to prevent the clan's inheritance or important matters from being leaked. This method was extremely overbearing and ruthless. This method would completely destroy the souls of the clansmen, causing them to never be able to reincarnate. After the blue-clothed man's soul exploded, there was still a portion of pure energy left. That portion of pure energy was absorbed by Lin Feng. After absorbing that portion of pure energy, Lin Feng's soul improved again. He felt that his soul was about to break through at any moment. Ever since he broke through to the Boundary Emperor realm, his soul had never advanced again. Now Lin Feng finally saw hope for his soul to advance. Next, Lin Feng took out the holy fruit and ate it. He used the archaic dragonesque elephant art to refine the holy fruit. The holy fruit's medicinal power was gradually absorbed by Lin Feng's body. The holy fruit was extremely extraordinary. All the medicinal power fused with Lin Feng's magic power and began to temper Lin Feng's magic power. Lin Feng's magic power became purer and purer. 3 days later, Lin Feng came out of seclusion. "Ha! My cultivation has advanced to the 9th heavenly layer of the celestial god realm. This holy fruits effect is really good." Lin Feng couldn't help but laugh. He was now only a step away from the 10th heavenly layer of the celestial god realm. Once he broke through to the 10th celestial god layer, Lin Feng would have to start accumulating strength. He would have to prepare to break through to the giant god realm. Given Lin Feng's cultivation, once he broke through to the giant god realm, his cultivation would undergo an earth-shattering change. After breaking through, Lin Feng was in a good mood. He killed a wild beast, cut open its stomach, cleaned it, and roasted it over a bonfire. Soon, the aroma of meat filled the air. Lin Feng began to enjoy the delicious food. At night, the roars of wild beasts shook the sky. It was a very restless night. No one knew what had happened. Especially at dawn, peerless and terrifying existences would appear. A ball of scorching flame rose into the air. There seemed to be a living being in the flame, but no one knew what it was. A bright moon rose. Of course, it wasn't a real moon, but a phenomenon. In the bright moon, a blurry living being appeared. Then, another living being appeared, lingering in the darkness. No one knew what it was. Looks like something shocking must have happened in the depths. Otherwise, this wouldn't have happened. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. At the same time, many cultivators were looking at the place where the strange phenomenon occurred. "Let's go and see what's going on." Many cultivators quickly flew toward the area. This space is really not simple. There are so many opportunities. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. He quickly soared into the sky and flew toward the area. Lin Feng planned to break through to the giant god realm in this space. Naturally, he had to seize all kinds of opportunities. This time, the commotion in the area was so great that it must be extraordinary. On the way, Lin Feng saw many cultivators. Some of them had already received some news in advance. Lin Feng heard a shocking piece of news from the cultivators' conversations. It was said that a mountain in the area had cracked open. Then, a stone flower grew out from the cracked abyss. The stone flower seemed to be nurturing a connate spiritual treasure. However, there were also some who said that the stone flower was nurturing an immortal medicine of immortality. Chapter 26:41. The stone flower was too extraordinary. There were many rumors about it that were too shocking. Of course, no one knew what secrets the stone flower hid. Rumors might not be true. One had to see it with their own eyes to know if it was true or not. In the northwest of this mysterious space, there was a huge mountain range here. The peak of this mountain range vaguely formed a huge divine gate. At this moment, a powerful fluctuation surged out from this mountain peak. Not long after, a huge energy gate appeared above the mountain peak. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. One figure after another flew out from the energy gate. This was a passage that connected to the undying realm. The cultivators of the undying realm all appeared in this mysterious space from here. 1,000 years ago, we came here to cultivate for a year, but now we're here again. The man in the lead said in a low voice. This man was unusually handsome and had a strong aura. He was like a scholar in the secular world who read books and poems. This person was called Zhao Zifei. He was from the Undying Realms Zhao family. He was from the same clan as Zhao Ming. Yes, I really didn't expect that we would come here again. Another cyan-robed young master said. He was also from the Undying Realms Zhao family. The Undying Realms Zhao family was also a famous family in the Undying Realm. Who didn't know of them? Who didn't know? This was a colossal force. There were countless geniuses. This group of people were the top geniuses from 1,000 years ago. It was unknown how strong their cultivation was now, but one could imagine that these people must be incomparably terrifying. Go find that kid. Don't kill him directly, but torture him ruthlessly first. Let him taste endless pain before killing him, Zhao Zifei said coldly. Yes, the others nodded one after another. Lin Feng didn't know that the experts of the Undying Realms Zhao family had descended into this mysterious space. Even if he knew, Lin Feng wouldn't care. He was going to use killing to prove his Tao, and then cultivate the white tiger aura. So no matter what kind of expert came, Lin Feng wouldn't have any fear. Lin Feng had already arrived at the area where the stone flower appeared. Many cultivators had already gathered here, and there was no lack of top experts standing in the distance and looking at the stone flower. The stone flower was green in color, and its roots were extremely long. The roots grew out of the underground abyss, and the area of the stone flower was extremely large. The petals were about 100 meters in diameter. Now, the petals were closed. After the Shihua appeared, some people tried to approach the Shihua, but their bodies were petrified. Dozens of stone men stood around the flower. These stone men were all cultivators who wanted to get close to the stone flower, but were petrified by it in the end. Petrification is very strange. It can turn cultivators into stone. Any cultivator who tries to get close to the stone flower will end up suffering a calamity. Are we just going to wait like this? Let's just wait and see. Someone will definitely make a move again. If someone really gets close and opens my petal, it won't be too late for us to make a move and seize the treasures within. Many cultivators were discussing in low voices. Many of them were waiting for others to take action. Although the stone flower was capable of petrifying cultivators who approached it, once the stone flower opened up and the opportunity appeared, they would no longer have to worry about it. Many people were aware of this. This was also the main reason why the surrounding cultivators were able to remain calm. Suddenly, a wave of intense energy fluctuations came from afar as a cultivator flew over. Shi Zhongjuan. After seeing the cultivator, someone exclaimed, "Who is he?" However, there were even more people who didn't recognize the cultivator, so they asked about his identity. This person is a disciple of a big family in the undying realm. He has the petrification, martial spirit. Someone said. Many people were shocked and moved. The petrification, martial spirit was an extremely heaven-defying martial spirit. It was said that the petrification martial spirit could petrify others and even one's own body. Once one's body was petrified, one's body would become as strong as the Stone Clan. When fighting with others, one's combat strength would also increase greatly. And this Shi Zhongjuan was also very famous among the younger generation of the Undying Realm. He was a top genius of the Undying Realm. Shi Zhongjuan will definitely be able to open the stone flower. Once the stone flower opens, the stone flower won't be able to petrify us anymore. Let's get ready to seize the treasures within the stone flower. Many cultivators began to discuss in private, preparing to snatch the fortune within the stone flower. Petrification, martial spirit. This martial spirit is quite rare. Lin Feng looked at Shi Zhongjuan and could not help but mutter to himself. He had seen all kinds of martial spirits, but this was the first time he had seen the petrification martial spirit. However, Lin Feng knew that the Empress possessed a powerful bloodline, the petrification bloodline, which could also petrify others. However, the Empress's petrification bloodline was definitely quite different from Shi Zhongjuan's petrification martial spirit. As for the specific difference, Lin Feng was not particularly clear. The stone flower is a sacred object. What kind of treasure is being nurtured inside? Shi Zhongjuan could not help but mutter to himself as he walked towards the stone flower step by step. When Shi Zhongjuan was 1,000 meters away from the stone flower gently swayed. The stone flower is about to show its might. Many cultivators exclaimed. They had seen the power of the stone flower before. The cultivators from before approached the stone flower. The same went for the stone flower. It swayed gently. Then, the cultivators who tried to approach the stone flower were petrified without even struggling. The current situation was exactly the same as before. But obviously, Shi Zhongjuan was different from the petrified cultivators from before. The stone flower swayed. It was not able to block the stone flower. Shi Zhongjuan was indeed worthy of possessing the petrification martial spirit. He was actually able to block the stone flower's petrification. He walked towards the stone flower step by step. The surrounding cultivators were also excited because Shi Zhongjuan might be able to open the stone flower very soon. The treasure inside the stone flower was about to appear. Was it a prenatal spirit treasure, or an immortal medicine, or perhaps a saint spirit? No matter what it was definitely extremely heaven-defying. Shi Zhongjuan quickly approached the stone flower. Very quickly, Shi Zhongjuan was 100 meters away from the stone flower. The surrounding cultivators also began to silently circulate their magic power, preparing to snatch the treasure inside the stone flower at any time. Shi Zhongjuan was getting closer and closer to the stone flower. 90 meters, 80 meters. 70 meters, 60 meters, 50 meters, 40 meters, 30 meters, 20 meters, 10 meters. Finally, Shi Zhongjuan came under the stone flower. He condensed a powerful magic power in his hands. Shi Zhongjuan wanted to break the stone flower. But at this moment, a crack appeared in the stone flower. A mass of green light enveloped Shi Zhongjuan. The mass of green light came into contact with Shi Zhongjuan's body. Shi Zhongjuan's body was instantly petrified. Chapter 2642. Heavens, Shi Zhongjuan has also turned into a stone man. Shi Zhongjuan has the petrification martial spirit, but he still can't resist the stone flower's petrification. That stone flower is too strange. The more bizarre this stone flower is, the more extraordinary it is. That's right, there must be a great secret hidden within this stone flower. Many cultivators began to discuss. Shi Zhongjuan's petrification caused a huge uproar. However, this also made everyone even more convinced that there must be something amazing hidden within the stone flower. Otherwise, the stone flower would not be so terrifying. But even Shi Zhongjuan was petrified. Who else can get close to Shi Hua? Someone said, frowning. Shi Zhongjuan's petrification made everyone lose hope of opening the stone flower. Besides Shi Zhongjuan, they couldn't think of anyone else who had the ability to open the stone flower. Even if there was a heaven-defying opportunity within the stone flower, but if he couldn't open the stone flower, he could only watch and sigh. Maybe we can wait for the cultivators from the top worlds to arrive. Someone said. The top-notch worlds they were referring to were the three paramount realms: the heavenly realm, the underworld, and the chaotic Xianhuang realm. Perhaps the cultivators of the three realms would have some unique methods to help them open the stone flower. Of course, that was just wishful thinking. The stone flower was simply too bizarre. Perhaps even the cultivators of the three supreme realms couldn't open it. The cultivators of the three highest realms are very mysterious. They usually stay in the immortal path to heaven and won't easily leave it. He had some understanding of the cultivators of the three supreme realms. It was precisely because of this understanding that he knew that the cultivators of the three supreme realms would not appear in this area. The cultivators of the three supreme realms knew many secrets. They might not even be able to obtain all the opportunities on the immortal path to the heavens within a year. Naturally, they wouldn't go to other places to search for opportunities. One had to know. In 1,000 years, there was only one chance to enter this space. After entering, they would stay for at most a year before leaving. That was why the cultivators of the three supreme realms cherished this 1 year. Truth be told, the cultivators of the other worlds did not want to wander around either. Unfortunately, they didn't know the secrets of this space. Therefore, they could only rely on their own abilities to search for opportunities. The cultivators of the Undying Realm, Dragon Realm, Devil Realm, Monster Realm, Buddha Realm, and other great realms also have many extraordinary cultivators. Maybe there is a way to open the stone flower. A cultivator said, although Shi Zhongjuan, who originated from the Undying Realm, was petrified, no one dared to underestimate the Undying Realm. The Undying World was ranked first among the 3,000 major worlds. There were many capable people. Apart from the Undying Realm, the cultivators from a few other realms were also extraordinary. However, for some unknown reason, the top-notch experts of the Undying World and the other worlds did not make a move. Perhaps they were worried that they would be petrified by the stone flowers. That was why he didn't make a move. This stone flower is too strange. What should I do to resist the stone flower's petrification? Lin Feng rubbed his chin as he pondered. He wanted to give it a try, but he couldn't think of a way to resist the stone flower petrification. Once he was petrified by the stone flower, only death awaited him. Therefore, Lin Feng did not act rashly. He had to be calm and cautious at this time. There is only one lotus in the eternal blue sky. Stone flowers appear in a hurry since ancient times. Billions of great Daos become nothing. Only the stone Tao can last forever. A burst of laughter came from afar. Everyone turned to look in the direction of the voice and saw a young cultivator. The young cultivator wore a green robe. Although his appearance was ordinary, his temperament was extraordinary. His poem was praising the great Tao of stone. There was an indescribable domineering aura in his words. However, Lin Feng didn't agree with his words. Each of the 3,000 great Taos had their own wonders. Therefore, it was obviously wrong to say that only the stone Tao could last forever. Of course, everyone had their own Tao. This cultivator only had the great Tao of stone in his heart. He believed that only the great Tao of stone could last forever. This was the Tao in his heart. It was also his belief. Only with the Tao in his heart could he prove his Tao. In the eyes of others, this Tao was wrong. However, as long as he believed it was right, he might succeed in proving his Tao in the future. Who is this person? Many people were asking about this cultivator's identity. This is someone from the sacred stone great world. I don't know what his name is. A cultivator said, the sacred stone great world was one of the 3,000 major worlds. This world was very powerful. This was because there were many powerful stone clan members in this world. Is he a cultivator from the stone clan? Someone asked. He was extremely shocked. The talent of the stone clan could be said to be heaven-defying. It was already quite heaven-defying for an ordinary major world to be able to give birth to a few stone clan members. This was the case for the 9 states' great world. The stone clan was extremely rare. Therefore, whether it was the cultivators of the 9 states' great world or those from other worlds, they were very curious about the stone clan. He didn't show the body of a stone clan member, so I don't know if he's a stone clan member or not. The cultivator from before said he had seen this cultivator before and had some interactions with him. However, they didn't have a deep relationship. Therefore, he naturally couldn't ask if he was a stone clan member. Stone clan. He's a stone clan member. Although he hid it well, I still felt his aura. The aura of the stone clan is not the same as the aura of the other clans. A cultivator said. This cultivator's words caused quite a commotion. Since he's a stone clan member, he must have many powerful methods. Maybe he can open the stone flower. A cultivator said, excitedly, seeing hope. If even a stone clan member couldn't open the stone flower, then perhaps no one would be able to open it. That stone clan cultivator stepped toward the stone flower. The stone flower swayed gently, trying to petrify him. It's useless against me, the stone clan cultivator said with an indifferent expression. He was a stone clan member, and so was the stone flower. The stone flower's power was indeed very difficult to work on a stone clan member. It was too difficult to petrify this stone clan member. Unless he used some heaven-defying methods, he might be able to do it. Ordinary methods definitely wouldn't work. The stone clan cultivator quickly approached the stone flower. Before long, the stone clan cultivator also arrived under the stone flower. A green light was emitted from the stone flower. It enveloped the stone clan cultivator. Previously, Shi Zhongjuan was petrified by this same green light. The stone flower wanted to do the same. It petrified the stone clan cultivator. The green light was very strange. When the stone clan cultivator's body came in contact with the green light, his body actually began to petrify. After seeing this scene, many people had shocked looks on their faces. Chapter 2643. If the Stone Tribe cultivator was petrified by the stone flower, then everyone could leave. Staying would just be a waste of time. Crack, crack, the Stone Tribe cultivator's body began to petrify. Just when everyone thought that the Stone Tribe cultivator would not be able to resist the fate of being petrified, the Stone Tribe cultivator's body began to change. Dense veins appeared on his body. Then his body became rougher and rougher. Not long after, his body turned into a stone body. The green light was swallowed by the Stone Tribe cultivator. The Stone Tribe cultivator blocked the stone flower's petrification. Seeing that, many of the cultivators there cried out in shock. The fact that the Stone Clan cultivator was able to block the stone flower's petrification gave them hope of opening the stone flower. Boom! The Stone Tribe cultivator attacked, punching towards the stone flower. Bam! That tyrannical punch mercilessly landed on the stone flower, and suddenly a dull collision sound was heard. The power of that punch was so powerful that even the surrounding void was torn apart by it. Twisted black cracks appeared in the void. Those were the cracks in the void. Soon, the cracks in the void closed up again. "The stone flower is fine," a cultivator said in disbelief. The punch of the Stone Clan cultivator was so powerful, but when it landed on the stone flower, it actually couldn't break through its defense. Wasn't the stone flower's defense a little too strong? "This stone flower is so heaven-defying." Lin Feng was also shocked. That Stone Tribe cultivator's cultivation was terrifying. Lin Feng could feel the terror of that punch. Such a powerful punch could not break through the stone flower. One could only imagine how heaven-defying that stone flower was. What is the origin of that stone flower? Lin Feng could not help but mutter to himself. He was very puzzled. This stone flower had shocked him time and time again. It made him feel that the stone flower's origin might be very shocking. Stone-breaking technique. The Stone Tribe cultivator's voice was cold. He had an extremely powerful technique that specialized in suppressing Stone Tribe beings. It did not matter if it was Stone Tribe cultivators, stone beasts, stone flowers, stone worms, etc. All members of the Stone Clan. They would all be suppressed. This stone-breaking technique was extremely domineering. Strange streams of energy condensed on the fist of the Stone Clan cultivator. Bang, bang, bang. The Stone Clan cultivators threw punch after punch at Shi Hua. After taking more than 10 punches from the Stone Clan cultivators, the petals of the stone flower began to loosen. It seemed to have the intention of opening up. Is the stone flower about to be opened? Seeing this scene, many people were pleasantly surprised. As expected of a Stone Clan cultivator, his methods are extraordinary. Even this strange stone flower can be opened. A cultivator exclaimed. Of course, although these cultivators were in awe of the Stone Clan cultivator's extraordinary power, they couldn't wait for the Stone Clan cultivator to be killed by the stone flower after opening it. They didn't want the Stone Tribe cultivators to obtain the fortune within the stone flower. With the death of the Stone Tribe cultivator, everyone would be able to compete fairly for the fortune within the stone flower. If the Stone Tribe cultivator was still alive, as the one who opened the stone flower, he was the cultivator most likely to obtain the fortune inside the stone flower. If this happened, many cultivators planned to kill the Stone Tribe cultivator and then snatch the fortune within the stone flower. After the death of the Stone Tribe cultivator, the treasure would become ownerless and everyone would be able to compete for it. As for who would be able to obtain it, it would depend on the strength of each faction. Huff, huff, huff. At this moment, balls of green light were shot out from the stone flower. A large amount of green light enveloped the Stone Clan cultivator, wanting to turn him into stone, because there were simply too many green lights. So even the Stone Clan cultivator couldn't hold on much longer. The Stone Clan cultivator's body seemed to be turning into stone again. a drop of stone man blood in your mouth. The Stone Clan cultivator growled. His mouth swelled up. Then he circulated the magic power in his body. A drop of stone man blood in his origin went into his mouth. It was held in the mouth of the Stone Clan cultivator. Stone man blood. He actually transformed into stone golem blood. Many people were shocked. It was simply unbelievable. The Stone Clan's body was stone. They didn't have blood. Once the Stone Clan's body produced stone man blood, they would be extremely heaven-defying. Such an existence's future achievements were unimaginable. They could even reach the level of the sacred battle ape or the great sage, heaven's equal. The fact that the Stone Clan cultivator had stone man blood in his mouth completely shocked the surrounding cultivators. Many people have designs on this Stone Clan cultivator. If this Stone Clan cultivator really gets the fortune, it won't be easy to kill him and take the fortune from the stone flower. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. This Stone Clan cultivator was far more powerful than he had imagined. The stone man blood was too terrifying. It allowed the Stone Clan cultivator to instantly undergo a qualitative leap. The Stone Clan cultivator's body suddenly became one size larger. His cultivation base had also improved tremendously. The green light couldn't continue petrifying the Stone Clan cultivator. Dense runes appeared on the surface of the Stone Clan cultivator's body. They were a type of stone runes. They were extremely ancient, mysterious, and difficult to understand. The runes seemed to have awakened. While devouring the green light, they also increased the Stone Clan cultivator's strength. Bang, bang, bang. The Stone Clan cultivator used the stone-breaking technique and threw punch after punch at the stone flower. Crack, crack. The stone flower's petals started to gradually open. There were intense sounds of friction. After seeing this situation, everyone's faces were filled with excitement. The stone flower was really about to open. What kind of opportunity was contained within the stone flower? Even the Stone Clan cultivator was very excited. He was waiting for the stone flower to open. The stone flower's petals opened very slowly. After half an hour, the petals gradually opened. What shocked everyone was that there was nothing after the petals opened. This was only the first layer of petals. Many people heaved a sigh of relief after seeing this. The first layer of petals didn't open, but there was more than one layer behind it. Perhaps it contained something heaven-defying. Crack, crack. The second layer of petals also started to open. When the petals opened, everyone saw that there was a stone sword wrapped within the petals. Stone sword. Stone sword. Oh my God, it's actually a stone sword. Lin Feng was extremely shocked. That stone sword was exactly the same as the one in Chonlu Devil Palace. The stone sword's origin was too extraordinary. It was as strong as a life form from the previous epoch. It only needed one sword. He would be able to kill him easily. Chapter 2644. The stone sword was extraordinary and hid a huge secret. Most importantly, the stone sword was too powerful. It was rumored that there were a total of 36 stone swords. Each stone sword could be said to be heaven-defying. If the 36 stone swords could be gathered together, they would erupt with unimaginable combat power, taking out the stone sword, slaughtering all the living beings of the previous era. These were all things that were very likely to happen. A stone sword. It's actually a stone sword. Many people exclaimed, their faces full of surprise. Stone swords were precious, although they didn't know the origin of the stone sword. Such a stone sword was definitely worth fighting for. It's actually this stone sword, the legendary treasure. There were also cultivators like Lin Feng who had heard of the stone sword. Hence, they were quite shocked when they saw the stone sword. A treasure like the stone sword. It could be called a peerless divine sword. They had always thought that the stone sword was a legendary item. Only now did they know that such a thing really existed. A treasure like the stone sword must be obtained. Any cultivator who had heard of the legend of the stone sword was eyeing the stone sword covetously. They secretly made up their minds to obtain it, no matter the price. They had to snatch the stone sword. Attack. Many cultivators soared into the sky and flew towards the stone flower. Now, they couldn't wait to snatch the stone sword. They couldn't wait for the stone flower's petals to open again. After all, those cultivators were a little far from the stone flower. The Stone Clan cultivator was the closest to the stone flower. He directly stretched out his right hand, and a powerful magic power surged out, sweeping towards the stone sword. It directly swept towards the stone sword. The Stone Clan cultivator wanted to take the stone sword directly. Just as the stone sword was about to be taken by the Stone Clan cultivator, an extremely terrifying fluctuation was emitted from the stone sword. Swoosh! Then, a dazzling sword chi slashed out. The sword chi directly tore through the void, shattering the sky and shattering the world. Its power was so strong that it shocked and moved people. The sword chi was as fast as lightning as it slashed towards the Stone Clan cultivator. The Stone Clan cultivator wanted to dodge the sword chi attack, but it was too late. Puchi, the Stone Clan cultivator, was directly cut in half at the waist. Heavens! The stone sword is too terrifying. Did the Stone Clan cultivators die? In the distance, many people were moved. They were originally charging towards the stone sword, but now they stopped, not daring to continue charging towards the stone sword. This was because the power of the stone sword was simply too tyrannical, causing everyone to feel a sense of trepidation. It's not his real body. Lin Feng frowned as he looked at the Stone Clan cultivator, who had been cut in half. The two halves of the Stone Tribe cultivator's body turned into a small puppet. This was the art of puppetry, to die on behalf of the body. The cultivators of the Stone Clan had extraordinary means and managed to escape this calamity. The art of puppetry is truly mystical. Lin Feng could not help but mutter to himself. The immeasurable Taoist had mastered the art of puppetry. Of course, the art of puppetry was ever-changing and mysterious. The Stone Tribe's puppet technique and the immeasurable Taoist puppet technique were definitely not the same puppet technique. However, although it wasn't the same type of puppet technique, they had some similarities in some aspects. For example, at a critical moment, he could die on behalf of the body and save his life. Of course, this kind of puppet technique wasn't 100% successful. Previously, Lin Feng had talked to the immeasurable Taoist about the art of puppetry. The boundless Taoist priest told Lin Feng that the puppet technique could only succeed 2 or 3 times out of 10. Lin Feng didn't want to die, but he didn't want to die. If an ordinary cultivator used the art of puppetry, he would be able to die on behalf of the body. He could use it 10 times. It was already good enough to succeed once. Therefore, the Stone Clan cultivator used the art of puppetry to die on behalf of the body. He only used it once, and it actually succeeded. His luck was really good. The Stone Clan cultivator appeared 100 meters away and looked at the stone sword with a gloomy expression. This stone sword was too powerful. It was too difficult to subdue this stone sword. Even someone as powerful as the Stone Clan cultivator was observing the stone sword at this moment and not trying to subdue it. This is a good treasure. Lin Feng looked at the stone sword with a burning gaze. A treasure like the stone sword was definitely a treasure that everyone dreamed of. Lin Feng naturally wanted such a treasure. However, the stone sword was too powerful, and he didn't think of a way to subdue it. If the heaven swallowing jar was here, perhaps he could try to subdue the stone sword. Perhaps he could succeed. However, The key was that Lin Feng couldn't bring the heaven-swallowing jar into this space. "This sword is mine," a cultivator walked over from afar. That cultivator carried 9 swords on his back. It was obvious that he was an expert with the sword. "Jian Wuxian. He's the top genius of the Sword Dao Great World, Jian Wuxian. It's said that he has already reached the realm of turning everything in the world into a sword at will," a cultivator said, pointing out the identity of that cultivator. Jian Wuxian was a top expert with the sword. He had 9 peerless swords. No matter where he went, Jian Wuxian would bring his 9 peerless swords with him. Of course, what Jian Wuxian was carrying now wasn't the real peerless sword. It was the 9 swords that he condensed with qi. Condensing swords with qi. This kind of sword condensed with qi was not simple. It was said that if it was nourished day and night, it would become stronger and stronger. It was much more powerful than a divine weapon. Jian Wuxian said that he had seen all kinds of treasured swords and had subdued 9 of them. Therefore, Jian Wuxian was very confident in himself. He believed that he could subdue the stone sword. Jian Wuxian has made his move. There shouldn't be any suspense now, right? The stone sword is about to be subdued. Yes, Jian Wuxian's methods are extraordinary. He has subdued 9 peerless divine swords. There's nothing surprising about him subduing another peerless divine sword. Many cultivators whispered to each other. Everyone looked at Jian Wuxian. This sword is indeed a legendary treasure. It just so happens that it can become my 10th peerless sword. Jian Wuxian muttered to himself. His hands kept changing seals. Incantations were formed one after another. Then, the seals rushed toward the stone sword. The densely packed spells enveloped the stone sword, and something shocking happened. The stone sword actually became motionless, and the terrifying killing intent emitted by the stone sword was also constantly diminishing. Everyone's face was filled with shock. Jian Wuxian's methods were too shocking. This peerless sword was about to have a master. Many people were naturally unwilling to see the stone sword being controlled by Jian Wuxian. Some people even wanted to kill Jian Wuxian. Even if they couldn't obtain the stone sword, they definitely wouldn't allow others to. However, they thought that Jian Wuxian could even refine the stone sword. Perhaps Jian Wuxian could already control the stone sword. If they rashly went up, they might be killed by Jian Wuxian. Those cultivators who wanted to kill Jian Wuxian withdrew their killing intent. Jian Wuxian saw that the stone sword had calmed down. He couldn't help but smile. He quickly flew toward the stone sword and reached out to grab it. Who would have thought that the motionless stone sword would suddenly take the initiative to fly toward Jian Wuxian? The stone sword flew to Jian Wuxian's side and slashed toward him. Puqi, Chapter 2645. Jian Wuxian is dead. A Sword Dao genius of a generation actually died. Just like that. Cries of surprise sounded one after another. Everyone looked at Jian Wuxian's corpse in shock. The stone sword was too powerful. It had cut off Jian Wuxian's head. Jian Wuxian's body then dissipated. If one died in this mysterious space, they would also die in the real world. This meant that a Sword Dao genius of a generation had fallen just like that. It was really lamentable. What a terrifying stone sword. Lin Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath. The power displayed by the stone sword had shocked and moved him. It was such a powerful stone sword. Who could take it? Whoever tried to take the stone sword would be courting death. The surrounding cultivators all frowned. If they could obtain such a stone sword, it would be too terrifying. However, the key was that they couldn't take the stone sword. Although many people wanted to take the stone sword, they gave up on that idea when they thought of how terrifying it was. If they wanted to take the stone sword, they had to consider whether they had the strength to do so. What do we do now? Are we just going to watch? It's such a treasure, but we can't take it. It's really a regret in life. Many cultivators sighed. They might only encounter such an opportunity once in their lives. Many people were depressed when they thought about missing out on this opportunity. The stone sword is a legendary, peerless divine weapon. I heard that there are a total of 36 stone swords. This should be one of them. A woman's voice came from afar. That woman was wearing a long white dress. Her body was graceful, and the white dress made her look like a peerless fairy. Many people's eyes lit up when they saw this woman. She was too stunning. No matter where she went, she was the center of attention. Her every move had an indescribable immortal aura. Who is this woman? Many cultivators were inquiring about this woman from their companions. She was so charming that many cultivators' hearts palpitated. Lin Feng was used to seeing all kinds of beauties. However, after seeing this woman, he couldn't help but take a few more glances. She's from the heaven realm, someone said aloud, revealing the identity of this woman. Her origin was so great that it scared people to death. She actually came from the heaven realm. One had to know. Nominally, the heaven realm was the center of the myriad worlds. It was also the highest plane in this universe. It was a place that everyone yearned for. In the heaven realm, cultivators could even break through to the true immortal realm. However, the heavenly realm was too mysterious for other cultivators. The heaven realm could be said to be shrouded in a veil of mystery. Everyone only knew that the heaven realm was a higher realm. As for the rest, they knew nothing. This was the heaven realm, a world full of mysteries. The heaven realm was the cradle of the strong. It was unknown how many powerful creatures were born there. There were rumors that there might still be some Scientian creatures who had not fallen. It was very likely that those Scientian life forms were sleeping in the heaven realm. Of course, Lin Feng didn't know whether this rumor was true or not. After all, there was no smoke without fire. Since there was such a rumor in the world of cultivators, perhaps it was true. If it was true, it would be too shocking. Innate spirits were creatures that appeared after the beginning of this era. They were unimaginably powerful existences. This woman came from the heaven realm. Her identity was enough to shock everyone. I originally thought that the cultivators of the heaven realm were all in the immortal path to heaven. I didn't expect that someone would walk out of the immortal path to heaven. A cultivator sighed. There were countless opportunities in the immortal path to heaven. Once one entered, very few people were willing to walk out of the immortal path to heaven. But now, this woman from the heaven realm had walked out of the immortal path to heaven. Who knew how many opportunities she would miss? Many people didn't understand what this woman was thinking. How should I address you, fairy? Someone asked, wanting to inquire about this woman's identity. The 3,000 mortal worlds are just a cloud of smoke. Why ask for my name? The woman said. Her voice was very pleasant to the ears. The woman's words were very appropriate for the occasion. She politely rejected the cultivator who asked about her identity, but she didn't hurt the other party's dignity. The heaven realm fairy looked at the stone sword and began to chant an incantation. Obviously, she wanted to control the stone sword with an incantation. The stone sword didn't seem to want anyone to control it. Therefore, it vibrated and released a dense sword chi. The sword chi that blotted out the sky and covered the earth slashed towards the heaven realm fairy. However, the sword chi directly shattered in midair. The heaven realm fairy's methods were really not to be underestimated. She actually shattered so many powerful sword chi. The stone sword seemed to have realized that the heaven realm fairy was not easy to deal with. Therefore, the stone sword directly swept across the sky and slashed towards the heaven realm fairy, wanting to split her in half. The Heaven Realm Fairy continued to chant an incantation. She stretched out her hand and gently tapped the stone sword. A beam of light gushed out from her fingertip and entered the stone sword. Suddenly, the stone sword's fluctuations became weaker and weaker. The Heavenly Realm Fairy then cast a series of seals, directly sealing the stone sword. The stone sword has been subdued, as expected of a Heaven Realm cultivator. Her methods are too heaven-defying. I wonder what method she used to subdue the stone sword. Soldier mantra. It must be the soldier mantra. A cultivator said aloud. The soldier mantra of the 9 syllables could control magic treasures. This was an extremely powerful method. What? Soldier mantra? One of the 9 secrets of Taoism. Immediately, some cultivators cried out in surprise. The soldier mantra was a heaven-defying inheritance. It was said that even many ancient Tao sects no longer had the cultivation method of the soldier mantra. Therefore, the soldier mantra had reappeared in the world. Naturally, it would cause quite a stir. Lin Feng raised his eyebrows slightly. The Heaven Realm Fairy had indeed used the soldier mantra. He had seen the Peacock King use the soldier mantra before. Therefore, he remembered the aura of the soldier mantra. Is this stone sword going to recognize its master? Lin Feng muttered. He also wanted to refine the stone sword, but the stone sword did not belong to him in the end. The Heaven Realm Fairy released a powerful magic power, as if she wanted to directly refine the stone sword. At this moment, waves of tyrannical fluctuations surged out from the stone sword that was originally sealed. The stone sword actually shattered the seal in an instant and then tore the void apart. Then it entered the void and disappeared without a trace. Shwa, the Heaven Realm Fairy, also disappeared and chased after the stone sword. It seems that the stone sword does not want to recognize the Heaven Realm Fairy as its master. Lin Feng could not help but touch his chin. Chapter 2646. Only a small group of cultivators went to chase after the stone sword. Most of them stayed behind, waiting for the stone flower to separate again. The stone flower had at least 5 or 6 layers of petals. Only 2 layers had been separated. If a heaven-defying treasure like the stone sword had appeared at the 2nd layer, what kind of treasures would appear at the next few layers? Just thinking about it made them extremely excited. Crack, crack, the stone flower's petals continued to separate. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the stone flower's petals. The 3rd layer of petals was about to separate. No one knew what kind of treasure would appear. Finally, the stone flower's petals gradually separated. A terrifying aura was emitted from the stone flower. After feeling that aura, many people's faces turned pale. However, when the 3rd layer of petals separated, everyone was dumbfounded. There was nothing inside the 3rd layer of petals. It was empty. It was different from what they had imagined. What was that terrifying aura just now? Where did it come from? Many people were puzzled. The aura emitted from the stone flower was too powerful. Everyone could clearly feel that powerful aura. However, there was nothing inside. It was too strange. Everyone was extremely puzzled. They did not understand what was emitting that terrifying aura. It's the aura emitted from inside, a cultivator said. Then he pointed at the stone flower. The stone flower emitted a terrifying aura. Then the aura gathered in the space inside the 3rd layer of petals. It kept accumulating. It was getting stronger and stronger. When the 3rd layer of petals separated, the aura was released. Therefore, everyone mistakenly thought that the 3rd layer of petals contained something extraordinary. However, there was nothing in the 3rd layer of petals. Since the aura is emitted from inside, there must be something wrapped in the petals. A cultivator said. Many people agreed with this cultivator's point of view. Many people felt that this was the case. Lin Feng was also observing the stone flower. There must be something even more shocking in the depths of the stone flower. However, it was hard to say what it was. Lin Feng retreated into the distance. He felt that the thing wrapped in the stone flower was very likely to be extremely terrifying. Previously, the aura emitted from inside the stone flower was already so powerful. Once the thing wrapped in the stone flower was revealed in front of everyone's eyes, no one knew what would happen. Perhaps some shocking things would happen. Caution is the parent of safety. He only had one life, so he naturally had to be more cautious. Crack, 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 the fourth petal of the stone flower began to separate. However, the speed at which the petals of the fourth layer separated was extremely slow. As the petals parted bit by bit, a terrifying aura spread out. That aura was so powerful that Lin Feng's expression changed. Something shocking must be about to appear. Yi Futian murmured. Many of the cultivators roared out in excitement. They felt that some heaven-defying items might appear. At that very moment, they could not wait to see what kind of treasure was inside the fourth petal. Many people were circulating their own cultivation methods, trying their best to resist the pressure of that terrifying aura. They stepped back unwillingly. This was because they wanted to snatch that shocking item as soon as it appeared. Crack, crack, crack. The stone flower continued to crack. Many people were excitedly discussing what was inside the fourth petal. Some said that it might be a connate numinous treasure, while others said that it was very likely an ancient weapon. There were also people who said that perhaps a heaven-defying divine fetus had been born. The petals kept parting. Finally, the fourth petal completely separated. What's that? Many people looked at the stone flower with a puzzled expression. After the fourth petal separated, they saw a pitch-black hole about 20 meters in diameter. It grew together with the stone flower as if it was a part of the flower. At first, many people thought that it was a powerful Dharma treasure or a sacred spirit. However, the situation in front of them was beyond their expectations. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Suddenly, the black hole above the stone flower emitted a powerful suction force. The suction force suddenly sucked. In an instant, gusts of hurricanes were formed. Many cultivators were enveloped by the hurricanes. Something's wrong. Run! The surrounding cultivators' expressions changed drastically. They quickly fled into the distance, but it was already too late. The hurricanes wrapped around their bodies. No matter how they struggled, they could not break free from the hurricanes. The densely packed cultivators quickly flew toward the black hole. They were all swallowed by the black hole. It wants to devour all of us. It's using us as nourishment. One of the cultivators roared out in horror. That cultivator had seen through Shi Hua's facade. The cultivator's words caused a huge panic. The stone flower was too strange. It had devoured so many cultivators. It was equivalent to devouring nourishment. Being devoured by the stone flower meant certain death. All the cultivators began to struggle violently. However, their struggles were futile. Let's attack together and destroy the stone flower. A cultivator shouted, "All right, let's destroy the stone flower together." Soon, many cultivators began to respond. The eyes of the cultivators who were enveloped by the hurricanes turned blood red. They were now facing a life and death situation. If they could not break free from the stone flower's devouring at that time, he would die without a proper burial ground. Boom, boom, boom. All kinds of powerful divine abilities condensed and formed. The divine abilities that blotted out the sky and covered the earth converged into a long river of divine abilities that crashed toward the stone flower, wanting to destroy it. However, at this moment, a terrifying scene occurred. The stone flower actually devoured all of the cultivator's attacks. What delicious food! Yi Fuqian murmured. The black hole above the stone flower opened and closed, and it actually spoke human language. That black hole was not a black hole at all. It was actually the stone flower's mouth. The stone flower opened its mouth wide. That was why it looked like a black hole. The stone flower was too powerful. It opened its mouth and suddenly sucked, creating an irresistible hurricane. Among the cultivators who were enveloped in the hurricane, only the extremely powerful ones who were relatively far away from the stone flower were lucky enough to escape from the hurricane. The rest of the cultivators were all devoured by the stone flower. Lin Feng retreated far away when the fourth layer of the stone flower's petals began to separate. Therefore, when he saw the stone flower begin to devour the cultivators here, he quickly left the area. Too tragic. Looking at the scene in the distance, Lin Feng could not help but take a deep breath. Those were all top geniuses. There were more than 2,000 of them. In the end, less than 20 people escaped. Chapter 2647. Anything that was related to the Stone Clan was a peerless terror. This saying was indeed true. The stone flower was too powerful and had devoured so many cultivators. Those cultivators who were lucky enough to escape the stone flower all heaved a sigh of relief. They still had a look of relief on their faces. Lin Feng saw the Stone Clan cultivator. That Stone Clan cultivator also had a look of relief. Originally, he was the closest to the stone flower. However, after being attacked by the stone sword, the Stone Clan cultivator felt that the stone flower was too strange. Therefore, he quickly retreated far away. Moreover, he always had a cautious attitude towards the stone flower. Therefore, when the stone flower mutated, he immediately ran far away and avoided a calamity. Lin Feng quickly left this place. There must be an unimaginable existence inside the stone flower. The stone flower devoured cultivators to nourish this existence. Therefore, Lin Feng felt that this existence was very likely to be a powerful Holy Spirit. These Holy Spirits were all extremely terrifying. They had the power to destroy heaven and earth. Once they were born, they would definitely shock the world. After leaving that area, Lin Feng began to train in this mysterious space. In this mysterious space, there were many powerful fierce beasts. Lin Feng constantly looked for powerful fierce beasts to challenge. Through one life and death battle after another, Lin Feng constantly sharpened his killing intent. The killing intent accumulated in the battle would not dissipate. It would merge into the white tiger aura and increase the white tiger aura. Lin Feng could clearly feel that the white tiger aura was gradually condensing successfully. This made him very happy. Once he successfully cultivated the white tiger aura, he would have 3 types of aura. At that time, he would be invincible. In this mysterious space, there were many opportunities. Of course, there were also many cultivators. Many cultivators from many worlds used various methods to enter this world. Therefore, this world was actually a very chaotic world. Once there were many people in a place, there would be conflicts for benefits. It would evolve into natural selection and survival of the fittest. This was very common in the world of cultivators. Therefore, in this space, Lin Feng often saw battles between cultivators. It was a battle to the death. On this day, Lin Feng fought thousands of rounds with a golden-backed WIRM king before finally killing it. After successfully killing the WIRM king, Lin Feng planned to skin it and pull out its tendons for a good meal. Suddenly, a stone light streaked across the sky. Stone sword. Lin Feng was shocked. The stone sword was surrounded by the stone light. The stone sword emitted waves of terrifying fluctuations. It was the stone sword in the stone flower. It seemed that the heavenly fairy and the others were unable to subdue it. But the stone sword The stone. He quickly chased after the stone sword. The stone sword was releasing a terrifying deadly chi. It wanted to scare Lin Feng away. The stone sword has a spirit. Lin Feng was shocked. The stone sword was too extraordinary. Maybe it really did have a spirit. Of course, it could also be an instinctive reaction. Such a powerful stone sword must have many unimaginable abilities. Don't run. Don't you think that if the two of us work together, we'll be invincible? Lin Feng said with a grin. Swoosh! A dazzling sword energy slashed at Lin Feng. The stone sword showed its might, wanting to kill Lin Feng. The sword was extraordinarily terrifying. Lin Feng felt an awe-inspiring aura locking onto him. That awe-inspiring aura made his hair stand on end. This sword strike was truly earth-shattering. Most importantly, this sword strike gave him a feeling that he could not avoid it. A thought appeared in Lin Feng's mind. No matter how he dodged, it was impossible to dodge the sword. It was a very scary thing to have such a thought because it often indicated that a great danger was about to descend. He could die at any time. Great Void Technique. Seeing that the terrifying sword was about to slash Lin Feng used the Great Void Technique. His body became a part of the void and then disappeared into the void. Lin Feng's body was like air. That terrifying sword slash was unable to hurt Lin Feng. In the next moment, Lin Feng returned to his original appearance. Ha ha! The Great Void Technique is indeed powerful. My body is merged with the void. No attack can hurt me. Lin Feng couldn't help but laugh. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In the next moment, more than a dozen sword energies slashed out. Lin Feng used the Great Void Technique again. This time, the sword energies shattered the void. Lin Feng was sent flying. The terrifying sword energies blasted towards him. He hurriedly used his mana immunity to block the attack of the sword energies, but he was still sent flying. This stone sword was really terrifying. It actually broke Lin Feng's Great Void Technique by shattering the void. Whoosh! The stone sword turned and flew quickly into the distance. It didn't continue to pay attention to Lin Feng. Perhaps it felt that killing Lin Feng wasn't an easy task, so it didn't continue to waste time. Lin Feng didn't give up chasing after the stone sword. He followed behind the stone sword and quickly chased after it. Don't go, my friend, Lin Feng shouted. He felt that the stone sword had a spirit and could understand what he was saying. Lin Feng wanted to keep the stone sword. Maybe the stone sword would change its mind and recognize him as its master? Scram! A cold voice came from the stone sword. As expected, it has developed spirituality. Lin Feng was very shocked, but this result was within his expectations, so he quickly regained his composure. Don't be so angry. You can consider my suggestion, Lin Feng said. If you don't scram, do you believe that I won't chop you into pieces? The stone sword said fiercely. The stone sword has developed spirituality. Lin Feng couldn't help but shout in his heart. Ordinary weapon spirits didn't have any emotional fluctuations. The stone sword had definitely developed spirituality. Its thinking ability was no different from a cultivator's. Lin Feng said, "Don't be in a hurry to reject me. I actually came to tell you something." The stone sword obviously wasn't in the mood to listen to Lin Feng. It quickly flew into the distance. Said Lin Feng, "Actually, I also have a stone sword that looks exactly the same." Huh. After hearing Lin Feng's words, the stone sword quickly stopped. All right, I can cooperate for the time being, but when you return to the real world, I want to see the situation of the stone sword. The stone sword said. Lin Feng nodded and said, "No problem." The stone sword flew toward Lin Feng. Lin Feng was about to collect it. Chapter 2648. The stone sword's attack on Lin Feng was very sudden. It sealed the surrounding space, preventing Lin Feng from using the Great Void technique. This fellow was extremely sinister. First, it deceived Lin Feng, saying that it agreed to cooperate with Lin Feng so that Lin Feng would lower his guard. When it came to Lin Feng's side, it would launch a sure-kill attack on Lin Feng. At this time, if it were anyone else, they would probably die. They would not be able to dodge the stone sword's attack. However, Lin Feng was different. Lin Feng cultivated the heaven patching technique. This was Lin Feng's trump card. When the stone sword was about to strike Lin Feng's body, Lin Feng's expression changed. Swoosh! There was a flash of light. Lin Feng disappeared without a trace. The stone sword's attack hit empty air. The stone sword could not help but let out a surprised sound. It seemed that it did not expect Lin Feng to be able to dodge its attack. Lin Feng appeared 100 meters away. He looked at the stone sword with a gloomy expression and said coldly, "What is the meaning of this?" The stone sword did not answer Lin Feng. Instead, it slashed at Lin Feng again. Lin Feng realized that something was wrong. He felt that there was something wrong with the stone sword's weapon spirit. The more powerful a magic treasure was, the more tyrannical the strength of the artifact spirit would be. However, these weapon spirits would usually spend their time in a deep sleep. Weapon spirits also had lifespans. Deep sleep could extend their lifespans. The awakening of a weapon spirit would consume a vast amount of energy. Therefore, weapon spirits would not awaken often. They would only awaken occasionally. Every time they awakened, their lifespans would be shortened. For a powerful magic treasure like the stone sword, even if it had a weapon spirit, the weapon spirit should have fallen into a deep sleep in hopes of prolonging its lifespan. Even if the weapon spirit woke up, there was no need for it to talk so much to him. With the stone sword's power, it would be too easy to kill him. Therefore, this was the crux of the problem. The stone sword was indeed powerful. However, it was different from the stone sword that Lin Feng had imagined. The stone sword could kill a black fog creature at its peak with a single strike. This stone sword was far inferior. He didn't even manage to unleash his full power. Logically speaking, if the stone sword's weapon spirit were to awaken, it would be able to unleash the power of the stone sword. However, the stone sword did not unleash its power. This was enough to explain many things. Could it be that it's not an artifact spirit? Or perhaps the stone sword doesn't even have an artifact spirit? Lin Feng thought of a certain possibility. Stone tools were rather special and were different from magic treasures. Stone tools were born from nature, so it was very difficult for an artifact spirit to appear. Those with spirituality were all members of the stone clan, not stone tools. Of course, nothing was absolute, so it was possible for some stoneware to give birth to a weapon spirit. However, this kind of stone tool was extremely rare. Since ancient times, there were only a few of them. The stone sword in front of him gave Lin Feng a strong feeling. There was no artifact spirit within the stone sword. That so-called artifact spirit was most likely the remnant soul of a cultivator. After thinking of this, Lin Feng's mind could not help but tremble. If the existence that spoke within the stone sword was an artifact spirit, Lin Feng would not be able to deal with the stone sword at all. However, if it was only a remnant soul that was attached to the stone sword, then Lin Feng would be able to find a way to deal with that remnant soul. "Brat, you are destined to die in my hands. After I kill you, you will know that I will plunder your soul and memories. Then I will tear apart this space and enter the world you are in. I will find the place where your physical body is and obtain the stone sword that you control." A sinister voice came from the stone sword. After hearing that voice, Lin Feng's face immediately revealed a cold smile. He was now even more certain that the fellow who spoke within the stone sword was not the stone sword's artifact spirit. It seemed that the stone sword had indeed not given birth to an artifact spirit. This fellow was pretending to be mysterious. In fact, it was just a remnant soul that was attached to the stone sword. Lin Feng sneered and said, "A remnant soul attached to the stone sword actually dares to boast shamelessly that you want to kill me. How laughable! In my eyes, you are simply a clown." "You know who I am?" The stone sword was shocked. Then its voice turned gloomy. "You are the first person to see through my identity. Then you have to die." The stone sword's killing intent towards Lin Feng was unprecedentedly strong. It was a remnant soul, so its connection with the stone sword was not strong. It could only slightly activate a trace of the stone sword's power. Therefore, this remnant soul needed to collect more stone swords. Once it found more stone swords, it would be even safer. This remnant soul even wanted to possess someone and be reborn. These things were all part of its plan. Let's see who will destroy who. Lin Feng sneered. He began to silently circulate the Great Curse technique. If that fellow was an artifact spirit, it would be protected by the stone sword. The Great Curse technique would not be able to harm it. However, that fellow was just a remnant soul attached to the stone sword. The stone sword would not protect it at all. Lin Feng's Great Curse technique had an opportunity to take advantage of. The Great Curse technique was powerful because it was unexpected. It had some weaknesses. It could be attacked by the Great Curse technique. The stone sword quickly rushed towards Lin Feng and directly slashed towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng turned and ran. As he ran, he continued to circulate the Great Curse technique. Lin Feng used the Great Cursing technique a few times, but he didn't manage to harm the broken soul in the stone sword. Lin Feng was annoyed. It seemed like harming the broken soul in the stone sword wasn't an easy task. The stone sword slashed towards Lin Feng again and again. Lin Feng was sent flying by a sword chi. His body was almost split in half. "Brat, your time of death has come." The remnant soul let out a sinister voice. Then it controlled the stone sword and quickly rushed towards Lin Feng. A terrifying power that could destroy heaven and earth surged out of the stone sword. It ruthlessly slashed towards Lin Feng. Just as that terrifying attack was about to hit Lin Feng, suddenly a tyrannical magic power surged out of Lin Feng's body. That magic power turned into an invisible curse power. The remnant soul in the stone sword suddenly let out a mournful cry. At the critical moment, Lin Feng's Great Curse technique finally succeeded in injuring that remnant soul. That remnant soul was injured. The sword that was slashing towards Lin Feng was suspended in midair. Lin Feng quickly rushed forward. First, he used the Divine Master's inheritance, the 8 God-forbidding seals, to seal the stone sword. Then, he used the Great Suppression technique. This 3,000 Great Tao suppressed the stone sword. Break! The remnant soul roared and began to struggle. It wanted to destroy the runes formed by Lin Feng's 8 God-forbidding seals and the Great Suppression technique. However, the remnant soul tried several times and failed. "It's useless. I'll refine you to death later." Chapter 2649. In a cave, Lin Feng began to burn the stone sword. He wanted to use the heavenly fire to burn the remnant soul that was attached to the stone sword. The remnant soul let out a miserable cry. After being burned by the heavenly fire, it had suffered great damage. The heavenly fire was the nemesis of these souls. "Brat, stop. Let's negotiate. Let's negotiate." The remnant soul roared, wanting Lin Feng to stop. Its body could no longer endure the heavenly fire's burning. The remnant soul's voice was filled with fear. It could feel the threat of death. This feeling was extremely terrible. Now you know how to beg for mercy? Don't you think it's too late? Lin Feng said coldly. He continued to use the heavenly fire to burn the stone sword. The remnant soul was suffering more and more damage. The remnant soul roared furiously. Brat, do you really want to kill me? If that's the case, I don't mind fighting to the death with you. Lin Feng curled his lips and said, Fight to the death? You think too highly of yourself. You're just a prisoner now. I can take your life any time I want. The remnant soul gritted its teeth and said, Fine, you win, but have you thought about how you're going to bring this stone sword out if you kill me? After hearing the remnant soul's words, Lin Feng couldn't help but frown slightly. He had thought about this problem before. He wanted to use his soul power to wrap around the stone sword and bring it out. The remnant soul seemed to know what Lin Feng was thinking. It said, Ordinary people can't control the stone sword. Since you said that you have a stone sword, you should know this. In the real world, you can't pick up the stone sword, right? Moreover, it's almost impossible for you to use your soul power to bring the stone sword away. Lin Feng sneered and said, Since you can attach your soul to the stone sword, I can naturally do the same. When the time comes, I can attach my soul to the stone sword and take it away. The remnant soul said, You think too much. My soul was able to attach itself to the stone sword because my soul had been with the stone sword for tens of thousands of years. It took tens of thousands of years for my soul to attach itself to the stone sword with great difficulty. Tens of thousands of years. Who are you trying to fool? Once a soul loses its physical body, it will quickly disperse. How can it remain for tens of thousands of years without dissipating? Lin Feng couldn't help but sneer. He didn't believe the words of the remnant soul. The remnant soul said, Back then, I was also swallowed by the stone flower and my physical body was destroyed. However, my soul was lucky enough to escape the calamity. Therefore, my soul has always been inside the stone flower. The stone flower is very special. If you stay inside, your soul won't disperse. Lin Feng raised his eyebrows. He hadn't expected such a situation. Lin Feng believed the words of the remnant soul. He coldly asked, Do you have a way for me to take the stone sword out? As long as my soul doesn't die, I can leave with you. The remnant soul said, Fine, I can spare your life, but you must acknowledge me as your master. Lin Feng said, Acknowledge you as my master? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. I will never acknowledge anyone as my master. Even if my soul is destroyed, I will not agree. The remnant soul said, its attitude extremely resolute. Lin Feng sneered and said, What do you want to do? We can sign a contract. If you don't kill me, I will help you control the stone sword. In the future, I will possess another body and leave the stone sword. At that time, I will give you the stone sword. The remnant soul said, in order to survive, it was willing to give up everything. Possess another body. You won't possess an ordinary person, but those geniuses all have extraordinary means. If a remnant soul like you tries to possess them, won't you be beaten to death? Lin Feng could not help but mock. The remnant soul said, I'm studying the corpse dismemberment technique. If I succeed, I won't possess someone else's body to be reborn. But the corpse dismemberment technique is different. It's like reincarnation. My soul will sleep in the mind of the fetus in the belly of the pregnant woman and wait for my reincarnation to come back. Lin Feng said in astonishment, Corpse technique? You're quite capable. You even know the art of dissecting corpses. If you want to learn it, I can teach it to you. Not interested? Lin Feng said indifferently before narrowing his eyes. After pondering for a moment, Lin Feng said, Fine, we can sign this contract. During your service, you must be loyal to me. If you dare to be disloyal, you will die without a grave. In the future, when you wish to possess another body, I will not stop you. No problem. The remnant soul replied with a nod. Although this contract made it very gloomy, it had no choice but to lower its head under someone else's roof. The remnant soul was powerless to resist Lin Feng, so it could only agree to Lin Feng's request. Then use your soul as an oath and sign a soul contract, Lin Feng said. The remnant soul nodded and began to swear. Before my corpse is dismembered, I, Gongyang Zhangsun, will be loyal to you. If I go against you, my soul will be shattered, and I will die a horrible death. After swearing the oath, a soul contract was formed. This soul contract fused with the remnant soul's soul. Lin Feng could sense the remnant soul's thoughts through the soul contract. If the remnant soul wanted to betray Lin Feng, the soul contract would instantly destroy the remnant soul, causing its soul to scatter. After the remnant soul swore the oath, Lin Feng removed the heavenly flames. How much power can you unleash from this stone sword? Lin Feng asked. The remnant soul replied, very little. Perhaps it is only a negligible portion of the stone sword's boundless power. Lin Feng picked up the stone sword. He carefully observed the stone sword. Because the remnant soul had attached itself to the stone sword, it was equivalent to the stone sword temporarily having an owner. Thus, Lin Feng was able to pick up the stone sword. If the stone sword had no owner, he would not have been able to pick it up. What a good sword! Lin Feng could not help but gently caress the body of the stone sword. The stone sword was extraordinary. If he wanted to use it now, he would need the help of the remnant soul. However, when his cultivation increased in the future, Lin Feng believed that he would be able to use the stone sword with his own strength. Shua, the stone sword shrunk and entered Lin Feng's dantian. Lin Feng then left the cavern. Do you know where the heavenly immortal path is? Lin Feng asked. The remnant soul said, the heavenly immortal path is not in a fixed location. I have entered the heavenly immortal path before, but I do not know where it is now. Oh, not in a fixed location? Lin Feng could not help but frown. He did not expect the heavenly immortal path to be so strange. That afternoon, Lin Feng met more than 10 cultivators. Most of them were female cultivators. Chapter 2650. Lin Feng could not help but take another look at the female cultivators. They were indeed beautiful. Moreover, with so many of them gathered together, it was a beautiful sight. Many cultivators in the surroundings were looking at the beautiful female cultivators. Normally, it's extremely difficult to even meet one of these beauties. Why are there so many of them gathered here today? Someone said, his eyes shining. The sight of so many peerless beauties really made one's heart palpitate. Could they be fairies from the celestial plane? Someone said, no, they are said to be from the fairy great world. Someone said, the fairy great world was one of the 3,000 great worlds. It was said that this great world was very special because all its inhabitants were women. Even some of the ferocious birds and beasts were female. There were no males. This great world was full of beauties. It was said that if the women of this great world wanted to have children, they only needed to go to the sacred river and drink its water to give birth to their own children. Lin Feng heard the discussions of the cultivators and could not help but feel shocked. He had heard of the fairy great world before, but he did not expect to see a female cultivator from there today. It seemed that the rumors were true. The women from the fairy great world were all peerless beauties. What are you looking at? Do you believe that I won't cut you down? A woman with flaming red lips said coldly. She was tall and sexy and carried a 3-meter-long sword on her shoulder. The weapon of such a beautiful woman was actually a huge sword. Not only did it not surprise the others, it also aroused the desire to conquer. The huge sword was obviously obtained from this mysterious space. Items from the outside world could not be brought in. However, there were many opportunities in this space. So many cultivators had obtained magic treasures. In this space, they could temporarily use the magic treasures they obtained. Of course, there were also some cultivators who obtained extremely heaven-defying treasures. When the time came, their souls could bring these treasures out. However, a treasure like the stone sword could not be brought out by the soul. Little girl, don't be so hot-tempered. I heard that you are from the fairy great world. Are there no men in the fairy great world? They are all as beautiful as you. Can you give us the ancient star map of the fairy great world? When the time comes, we will go to your fairy great world. A male cultivator said with a smile. Naturally, everyone knew what this male cultivator meant. You despicable thing, the female cultivators of the fairy great world cursed. How am I despicable? The cultivator did not take it to heart. Instead, he asked with a smile, his eyes scanning the female cultivators from the fairy great world. Go to hell. The female cultivator with the huge sword also had a fiery temper. She slashed her sword towards the male cultivator, and a huge 100-meter-long sword beam flew out. His speed was as fast as lightning, and he soon arrived in front of the male cultivator. The male cultivator's expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly used his divine ability to defend himself. However, that sword beam was simply too powerful. It broke through the male cultivator's divine ability and sent him flying. The male cultivator was almost cleaved in half by the sword. Many cultivators broke out in cold sweat, and it was obvious that the woman with the huge sword was not the leader of the group of women from the fairy great world. The leader should be the woman in the blue dress. She was as beautiful as a fairy, as if she had walked out of a painting. She was too charming. You dare to tease me with such little strength? You must be tired of living. The woman with flaming red lips curled her lips and looked at the male cultivator, who was almost cut in half by her, with disdain. The cultivator had a deep wound on his body, but he was not dead. His companions helped him up. Just you wait, the male cultivator said through gritted teeth. The male cultivator gritted his teeth and shouted. He left behind a ruthless sentence and fled with the help of his companions. Let's go, let's go. We can't afford to offend these women, many cultivators said as they quickly dispersed. Lin Feng did not stay and flew into the distance. But suddenly, a sword chi tore through the void and slashed at Lin Feng. The sword chi was dazzling and powerful. It locked onto Lin Feng. Clang! Lin Feng flicked his finger and shattered the sword chi. In the next moment, a cultivator stepped out of the void. Look, it's Xiao Shun. How did he enter this space? Didn't this guy already come here to cultivate 1,000 years ago? This space is very special. After entering once, you can't touch any of the treasures here. If you dare to touch them, you will be mercilessly killed by the laws of order here. A cultivator said doubtfully after seeing the man who stepped out of the void. Haven't you heard the news? It's said that Zhao Ming was killed, so the Zhao clan of the Undying Realm sent many experts into this space to kill the cultivator who killed Zhao Ming. Could Zhao Ming have been killed by that brat? That's very likely. I wonder who that kid is. He even dared to kill someone from the ancient Zhao clan of the Undying Realm. How audacious! Some of the cultivators in the surroundings whispered to each other. You killed someone from my Zhao clan. Have you thought about how you're going to die? Zhao Shen walked towards Lin Feng step by step. His expression was indifferent, and his voice was filled with endless coldness and killing intent. Seeing this cultivator from the Zhao clan, Lin Feng couldn't help but sneer. He had long expected the Zhao clan to send experts here. Therefore, he wasn't surprised to see Zhao Shun. Reckless fool, you're already at death's door, yet you still dare to boast in front of me. Lin Feng looked at Zhao Shun indifferently. The surrounding cultivators were all stunned. No one thought that Lin Feng would look down on Zhao Shun like this. Isn't this kid too arrogant? Zhao Shun is a cultivator who entered this space to train 1,000 years ago. He obtained a great opportunity back then. Who knows how terrifying his cultivation is now? Yeah, if he underestimates Zhao Shun, he won't have a good ending. Many people whispered among themselves. These people felt that Lin Feng would definitely suffer a great loss for looking down on Zhao Shun. Arrogant, Zhao Shun's eyes couldn't help but darken. Endless killing intent burst out from his eyes. He sneered and said, "Since you dared to kill a member of the Zhao family in the Undying Realm, you will die without a doubt. Not only will you die, but your family, lovers, relatives, friends, fellow disciples, etc. Everyone who is related to you will die. Today, I will kill you first and plunder your memories to see where you are from. Soon, those who are related to you will also die tragically. You won't feel lonely or lonely on the road to the Yellow Springs." Chapter 26:51. Zhao Shun's attack was called 3,000 Lightning Haste. His palm was surrounded by dense thunderbolt power. Every thunderbolt power seemed to have the terrifying power to distort time and space. The palm slammed towards Lin Feng, containing the power to destroy heaven and earth. Even the surrounding void was torn apart. What terrifying power! Zhao Shun is indeed an expert who entered this mysterious space 1,000 years ago. Immediately, some of the cultivators cried out in shock, shocked by the formidable palm attack that Zhao Shun unleashed. That kid won't be killed by Zhao Shun's palm, right? Another cultivator said, thinking that it was possible. Zhao Shun's attack was too powerful. Lin Feng might really be killed by a single palm. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. He also slammed his palm towards Zhao Shun. Bang! Half a year later, a dull sound of collision was heard. Lin Feng and Zhao Shun's palms had collided. Lin Feng did not move at all, but Zhao Shun was forced to retreat 3 steps. How is this possible? Many people exclaimed. They could not believe their eyes. An expert like Zhao Shun was actually forced to retreat with a single palm. It was unbelievable. Zhao Shun isn't good at mystique attacks. What he's good at is swordsmanship. Someone said, seeming to be more familiar with Zhao Shun. I see. Zhao Shun lost in a contest of mystiques. Looks like he's going to use his own swordsmanship. Some cultivators said, guessing what Zhao Shun was going to do next. At this moment, Zhao Shun's expression was extremely gloomy. Being forced to retreat by Lin Feng made him feel like he had lost all face. "Kid, I'll cut you into pieces later and let you die in endless pain." Zhao Shun's eyes flickered with hatred. Boom. Next, Zhao Shun's body emitted a sharp aura. It was sword chi. This move of mine is called Sword Emperor's Merciless Slash. Zhao Shun's voice was cold as he leaped forward. In the next moment, his body turned into a treasured sword. His body turned into a treasured sword. The sword was the man, and the man was the sword. The dazzling sword chi quickly slashed towards Lin Feng. The power was so strong that it shocked and moved everyone. In the face of such a powerful sword strike, the surrounding cultivators quickly retreated, unable to withstand the pressure brought about by the sword energy. What a powerful sword! Will that kid be killed? Everyone looked at Lin Feng. They wondered if Lin Feng could withstand Zhao Shun's terrifying sword. Sword Dao, no matter how powerful your swordsmanship is, it can't withstand my fist, said Lin Feng, smiling coldly. He raised his right fist and punched Zhao Shun. Bam! The two sides clashed once again. Zhao Shun's sword qi was unable to break through Lin Feng's defense. Lin Feng followed him like a shadow. One punch after another smashed towards Zhao Shun's sword qi. Dozens of punches landed on the sword energy formed by Zhao Shun. In the end, the sword energy that Zhao Shun had transformed into was beaten back into human form by Lin Feng. Then, Lin Feng's punch landed on Zhao Shun's body and sent him flying. Pooh! Zhao Shun couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. His face turned as white as a sheet. Many people looked at Lin Feng in shock. They couldn't believe their eyes. Even a powerful cultivator like Zhao Shun was beaten to the point of spitting out blood by Lin Feng. The cultivation base that Lin Feng had displayed was simply too powerful. Who is that kid? How can his cultivation base be so strong? Someone asked, wanting to know Lin Feng's identity. The combat power that Lin Feng had displayed was too shocking. Such a powerful cultivator shouldn't be unknown to the public. There are too many cultivators who have entered this space. They come from different worlds. It seems that many of them are keeping a low profile. A cultivator said, due to the frequent fights for treasures in this space, many geniuses would take action. Naturally, there was no way for them to hide their strength. Because of that, everyone knew the average geniuses. Lin Feng, on the other hand, was an unfamiliar face. That was why everyone thought that Lin Feng had been keeping a low profile all this time. That was why he hadn't been noticed. And here I was wondering how powerful your cultivation base was. How disappointing. Yi Fuqian sighed. Lin Feng looked at Zhao Shun indifferently. If that's all you've got, then you'll definitely die today. Boom! Lin Feng made his move. A powerful wave of energy surged out from his body. His black hair danced in the wind as he charged at Zhao Shun like an unparalleled demon god. 10,000 swords as one. Zhao Shun's voice was cold. He had used another extremely powerful mystic art. This time, Zhao Shun condensed a dense amount of sword qi. The 10,000 sword qi finally merged into one, forming a single sword qi. The sword qi was so powerful that it tore through the void and slashed towards Lin Feng. Magic immunity. Lin Feng couldn't help but shout coldly in his heart. Dense runes appeared on the surface of his body. When Zhao Shun's sword moved towards Lin Feng, Lin Feng's expression changed. That tyrannical sword was immediately blocked by the magic immunity rune on his body. Impossible. Zhao Shun couldn't believe what he was seeing. His powerful sword had been blocked. This was a huge blow to his confidence. Lin Feng quickly arrived in front of Zhao Shun and punched at him. Zhao Shun wanted to fight back, but it was too late. He crossed his arms in front of him, trying to block Lin Feng's punch. Lin Feng's powerful punch landed on Zhao Shun's arm. Crack! Crack! Zhao Shun's arm was broken. Zhao Shun's entire body was sent flying. Next, Lin Feng used Sky Split and slashed out a saber light. Slash! Zhao Shun was cut in half by Lin Feng. Lin Feng took Zhao Shun's soul origin and left, leaving behind a group of stunned cultivators. Zhao Shun is dead. That kid is too powerful. There's going to be a good show to watch. The Zhao family won't let this matter rest. Many cultivators said excitedly, waiting for the show to start. After Lin Feng left, he found a place to refine Zhao Shun's soul. Lin Feng's soul power had finally broken through. His soul power was roughly equivalent to the soul power of a cultivator who had reached the second step of the Quasi-Emperor realm. It's getting harder and harder to raise my soul power. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown slightly. Ever since his soul power broke through to the Quasi-Emperor realm, Lin Feng had only raised his soul power by one level. It was extremely difficult to raise the soul power of a Quasi-Emperor realm cultivator. After Lin Feng came out of seclusion, he hunted a ferocious beast. Then he started a bonfire and roasted the meat he was best at. Sizzle, 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 sizzle. The roasted meat had already turned golden. Golden fat dripped into the bonfire, giving off sizzling sounds. An enticing aroma of meat spread out. Chapter 2652. Lin Feng tore off a large piece of barbecued meat and ate it. The only pity was that there was wine but no meat. A dozen beautiful female cultivators flew over from afar. "It smells so good," one of the female cultivators said. The other female cultivators nodded. They were passing by and could not move after smelling the barbecued meat. They landed and stared at the barbecued meat on the bonfire. These were the female cultivators of the fairy great world. They were of all shapes and sizes, and there were all kinds of beauties. It was really a kind of dazzling feeling. "Fairies, are you hungry? There's still a lot of barbecued meat. Why don't you all sit down and have a taste?" Lin Feng said with a smile. "I originally wanted to tell you to scram, but I've changed my mind." The woman with flaming red lips stabbed her huge sword into the ground and said. Then she tore off a piece of barbecued meat. After taking a bite of the barbecued meat, his eyes lit up. "Why did you change your mind?" Lin Feng looked at the woman with flaming red lips with a smile that did not seem like a smile. He had seen this woman fight before, so she left a deep impression on him. This woman had a fiery temper. "Because of your eyes. Your eyes are not as hateful as the others," the woman said. Lin Feng's eyes were very clear. Although he could not help but look at them a few more times, he did not have any special thoughts. Lin Feng said with a smile, "I've always been a gentleman. I don't know if you are a gentleman or not, but I know very well that your skin is very thick." The woman with flaming red lips could not help but pout. She was clearly more open-minded than her companions. "Everyone, come and have a taste." Lin Feng smiled at the other women. "Thank you for your hospitality, young master." The others thanked him and sat around the bonfire. They tore off a piece of barbecued meat and ate gracefully. After eating the first mouthful of roast meat, the eyes of the female cultivators lit up like the woman with fiery red lips. Lin Feng's barbecued meat was the best in the world. No matter who ate it, they would be full of praise. Then, the group of beautiful female cultivators began to quickly consume Lin Feng's barbecued meat. After eating, the woman with flaming red lips said, "I didn't expect your barbecued meat to taste so good. Now, I'll give you a chance. Become our little follower and cook for us every day. If we obtain a fortuitous opportunity, you will also have a share." Lin Feng said with a smile, "I don't want any fortuitous opportunities. How about this? If you agree to be my woman, I'll stay and protect you all." "What did you say?" The woman with flaming red lips suddenly screamed, and then put her hands on her waist. Then she looked fiercely at Lin. She had the urge to chop Lin, of course. Lin Feng knew that this woman had a fiery temper. However, he just wanted to tease the woman with the fiery red lips. Cultivation was great. Lin one should have some fun in life. Lin Feng was Lin of, "Is that why you're so excited?" Lin Feng said with a smile, I'm so happy that I want to swing my sword to liven things up," said the woman with fiery red lips. She took out her sword and threw it at Lin Feng. "Help! You're trying to murder your husband." Lin Feng couldn't help but shout loudly. He jumped and dodged the sword attack of the woman with red lips. "I'll kill you," the woman with flaming red lips said fiercely. She had a fiery personality and couldn't tolerate even a grain of sand in her eyes. She was being teased by Lin Feng. Naturally, she was furious. "Beauty, I was just joking. There's no need to be so angry, right?" Lin Feng said hurriedly, I just want to chop you up. Can't I? The woman with flaming red lips snorted coldly and continued to pounce at Lin Feng. The sword in her hand slashed at Lin Feng. Yuchi, stop. This young master doesn't mean any harm. The woman in the blue dress said. This woman was the leader of the group of female cultivators from the fairy great world. When the woman with flaming red lips heard the woman in blue telling her to stop, she was extremely unwilling, but she didn't disobey. Cough, cough. Thank you, fairy, for helping me out of this predicament. Lin Feng cupped his fists. The woman in blue said, Young master, you're too polite. My little sister has a fiery temper. Please forgive her. Lin Feng said, Fairy, you're too polite. I was in the wrong first. At least you're a man. Hearing Lin Feng take the initiative to take the blame, the woman with flaming red lips couldn't help but snort. Lin Feng said, I'm Lin Feng. May I know your name? Hua Mengdai. The woman in blue introduced herself. She then pointed at the woman with flaming red lips and said, This is my junior sister, Nangong Yuchi. After that, the girl in the blue dress introduced the other disciples to Lin Feng. After a brief conversation, Lin Feng learned that there were many powerful sects in the fairy great world. The power they belonged to was called the Fairy Kingdom. It was a kingdom. In addition, there were also the Goddess Kingdom, Saintess Kingdom, and various other powers. Lin Feng muttered inwardly. It seemed that the fairy great world was indeed filled with women. Moreover, all of them were as beautiful as fairies. It was truly a place to yearn for. Lin Feng asked, There's something I'm curious about. I heard that the fairy great world has a sacred river. It's said that even a man can get pregnant after drinking its water. Is that true? The group of female cultivators immediately laughed. Nangong Yuchi said, You know quite a lot. Why? Do you want a drink? Lin Feng felt a chill run down his spine. Only a ghost would want to drink it. He hurriedly said, I'm not interested in drinking that thing. I'm just curious. Hua Mengdai said, The sacred river's water is the most important resource of our fairy great world. It's also a sacred item of the fairy great world. It's protected by all the powers. The sacred river's water is only effective for women. After drinking it, a woman can give birth to a new life. Naturally, it won't happen to a man. I see. Thank you for your advice. Lin Feng cupped his fists. You're too polite, young master. Hua Mengdai smiled. This woman was like a woman who had walked out of a painting. She was so beautiful that it made people involuntarily admire her. Young master, are you going to search for the immortal path to heaven? Hua Mengdai asked. Indeed, I am planning to do so. Lin Feng nodded. The immortal path to heaven can only be encountered by chance. Only when it appears on its own will cultivators be able to enter it. Hua Mengdai said. This was the first time Lin Feng had heard such words. He asked, If the immortal path to heaven doesn't appear for a long time, doesn't that mean there will never be a chance to enter it? Chapter 2653. After hearing Hua Mengdai's words, Lin Feng couldn't help but fall into deep thought. It seemed that it wouldn't be easy to find the immortal path to the heavens. He would have to wait for it to appear on its own. However, he had no idea how long he would have to wait. Hua Mengdai continued, We have the key to a mysterious place. We plan to enter and explore it. We would like to invite Lin Gongzi to join us. I wonder if Lin Gongzi would be interested. Hearing Hua Mengdai's words, Lin Feng's interest was piqued. Clearly, the mysterious place mentioned by Hua Mengdai was definitely not simple. There might even be some shocking treasures inside. With that thought in mind, Lin Feng said, Very well. I'll be your escort and protect you fairies. Nangong Yuchi snorted and said, You want to protect us with that little bit of cultivation of yours. Nangong Yuchi's cultivation level was extremely high. Lin Feng had seen that before. Hua Mengdai was the leader of the group. As the leader of the group, Hua Mengdia's cultivation should be even higher. The rest of the people had extraordinary cultivations, so the power they possessed was extremely powerful. It was no wonder Nangong Yuchi didn't think much of Lin Feng. Lin Feng's life, aura, was too young. Even if he had started cultivating in his mother's womb, how much cultivation could he have by now? Thus, Nangong Yuchi had her reasons for looking down on Lin Feng's strength. She even wondered why Hua Mengdai would invite Lin Feng to explore the secret place with them. But in front of Lin Feng, Nangong Yuchi didn't ask him directly. Nangong Yuchi wasn't the only one who was puzzled. Her fellow disciples were also very puzzled. However, Hua Mengdia's thoughts had always been difficult to guess. Thus, they didn't know why Hua Mengdai had invited Lin Feng. Hua Mengdai said, "Yuchi, you can't be so rude." "Yes, senior sister," Nangong Yuchi replied. However, her eyes were still glaring at Lin Feng. Lin Feng couldn't help but feel wronged. "I didn't do anything. You were the one who caused trouble and got scolded by Hua Mengdai. Why are you glaring at me? Let's rest for a night and set off tomorrow." Hua Mengdai said. The rest of the people responded and went to find a place to rest. Lin Feng also looked for a place to rest. In order to not cause any misunderstandings, he kept a distance from where Hua Mengdai and the others were resting. "Senior sister, why did you bring that fellow along? What other merits does that fellow have other than being good at barbecuing? And his cultivation level shouldn't be that high, right?" Nangong Yuchi asked doubtfully. The other female cultivators beside Hua Mengdai also looked at Hua Mengdai. One of the female cultivators said, "Senior Marshal Sister wants that Lin Gongzi to go with us. Could it be that you want that Lin Gongzi to keep cooking barbecue for us?" Hearing the female cultivator's words, Nangong Yuchi couldn't help but knock on the female cultivator's head. This female cultivator was very cute. Her figure was petite and exquisite, and she was the youngest in the group. She had a cute and naive personality. Therefore, she was very popular with everyone. Nangong Yuchi said, "You little glutton, all you think about is how to eat all day long. Be careful not to turn into a big fatso." "I don't want to turn into a big fatso." The female cultivator quickly shook her head. When she thought about how she would turn into a big fatso, she screamed in fright. Hua Mengdai smiled and said, "I can't see through this Lin Feng, but I feel that he isn't a simple person." "Him." Nangong Yuchi shook her head. The rest of the people didn't agree. Hua Mengdai said, "Cultivation level is only a part of a cultivator's ability. Perhaps this Lin Feng's cultivation level isn't that high, but he might be more outstanding in other aspects. For example, formations, alchemy, smithing, or some other arts." "That's a possibility." The others nodded. That night, the roars of beasts resounded throughout the mountain forest. During the night, terrifying beasts started to come out. Some powerful beasts specialized in hunting cultivators. After these beasts devoured cultivators, their bloodlines would greatly improve, and so would their cultivation. Therefore, these beasts loved to devour the cultivators that entered this space, allowing them to evolve once again. Roar. A nine-headed fire dragon's roar shook the sky. This nine-headed fire dragon was the most powerful beast in the surrounding 10,000 miles. Its spiritual sense was very sharp, and it found many cultivators. Those cultivators were killed by the nine-headed fire dragon, and then devoured by the nine-headed fire dragon. The nine-headed fire dragon's strength was too terrifying, and it shocked everyone. "It's a nine-headed fire dragon. Quickly hide," Hua Mengdai said, her voice turning serious. The nine-headed fire dragon was a peerless and terrifying creature, and no one dared to provoke it. Even if they worked together, they wouldn't dare to provoke it. Hua Mengdai and the others had seen a group of powerful cultivators before. There were more than 30 of them, and they were much stronger than their group. However, those experts were killed by the 9 fire dragons and became food for the 9 fire dragons. Therefore, when facing the 9-headed fire dragon, Hua Mengdai and the others felt fear from the depths of their souls. Hua Mengdai and the others hurriedly hid in a cave. Lin Feng leisurely walked towards the cave. Do you want to die? Hurry up. If the 9-headed fire dragon sees us, we'll all die. Nangong Yuchi saw Lin Feng's leisurely movements and couldn't help but roar like a lioness from Hedong. She really had a fiery temper. Got it, Lin Feng said indifferently. The 9-headed fire dragon was indeed powerful, but Lin Feng didn't take it seriously. Previously, Lin Feng had found many powerful beasts to challenge, and he had also challenged the 9-headed fire dragon. In the end, Lin Feng and the 9-headed fire dragon were evenly matched. Of course, Lin Feng had some heaven-defying methods that he hadn't used, but Lin Feng felt that the 9-headed fire dragon should have some extremely heaven-defying methods that it hadn't used either. Hua Mengdai and the others hid in the cave. Then, Hua Mengdai set up a concealment restriction to hide the cave. They were all praying that the 9-headed fire dragon wouldn't discover them. The 9-headed fire dragon wreaked havoc along the way, killing countless cultivators. It was very dangerous to move around at night in this mysterious space, so it was more rational to hide. After all, if they moved outside, they wouldn't be able to hide at all. At that time, they would definitely be attacked by many powerful beasts. However, the 9-headed fire dragon's perception was too strong. The 9-headed fire dragon flew over from afar. Its huge body descended from the sky, and its cold eyes looked at the place where Lin Feng and the others were hiding. Did it discover us? Nangong Yuchi, a hot-tempered woman, was so scared that her face turned pale. Later, I'll try my best to delay the 9-headed fire dragon. You guys split up and run. Run as fast as you can. Every single one of you who can escape is one life. Hua Mengdai said with a pale face. Senior sister, how can we leave you alone? Nangong Yuchi and the others were also very pale. Hua Mengdai bit her red lips and said, Do as I say, otherwise we'll all die here. Chapter 2654. Heavens! The 9-headed fire dragon left. Nangong Yuchi cried out in surprise. The others were also overjoyed. Although they didn't know why the 9-headed fire dragon left, they were safe now that it had left. Could it be that the 9-headed fire dragon didn't notice us? A female cultivator asked. That might be possible. Hua Mengdai couldn't help but let out a long sigh. The 9-headed fire dragon's aura was too strong. If they were discovered by the 9-headed fire dragon, they might all be wiped out. Even if someone managed to escape, only 2 or 3 people would be able to do so. The rest would become the 9-headed fire dragon's food. Now that the 9-headed fire dragon had left, everyone could finally relax. We're so lucky, Nangong Yuchi and the others said, secretly rejoicing. Lin Feng, who was standing at the side, had a faint smile on his face. In the darkness, he exchanged glances with the 9-headed fire dragon. After seeing Lin Feng, the 9-headed fire dragon turned around and left without a second thought. Previously, the 9-headed fire dragon had fought Lin Feng, but it hadn't been able to defeat Lin Feng. Moreover, after seeing Lin Feng this time, the 9-headed fire dragon felt that Lin Feng's cultivation had improved again. This gave the 9-headed fire dragon a huge fright. Lin Feng's cultivation had improved again, If the two of them were to fight, wouldn't the nine-headed fire dragon be killed? Thinking of this, the nine-headed fire dragon no longer dared to stay. It turned around and fled. The nine-headed fire dragon fled at an extremely fast speed, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Of course, Lin Feng didn't mention this matter. He also wouldn't tell Hua Mengdai, Nangong Yuqi, and the others that the nine-headed fire dragon had been scared away by him. You're too useless. You were actually scared to the point that you couldn't even say a word. Are you still a man? If you're a man, you should rush forward when danger descends and shield us from the wind and rain. Nangong Yuqi looked at Lin Feng with an annoyed expression. Lin Feng couldn't help but rub his nose speechlessly. He didn't say anything because he was scared. What kind of crooked logic was this? Hua Mengdai said, "Yuqi, don't be so rude." Nangong Yuqi snorted and ignored Lin Feng. The roars of the 9 fire dragons came from the forest in the distance. None of them went out and rested inside the cave. Lin Feng rested very well, but Hua Mengdai and the others were no longer sleepy. Even until dawn, they were still unable to sleep. That night, they were all on tenterhooks, afraid that the 9 fire dragons would attack again. Fortunately, the night passed peacefully. The group set off. He continued to head towards the secret location mentioned by Hua Mengdai. The ancient forest was dense, and from time to time, one could see powerful, ferocious beasts roaming about, as well as many cultivators. They could even see some cultivators killing each other over treasures. Many people's eyes lit up when they saw the female cultivators from the fairy great world. There were also many who harbored evil intentions. However, this group of people from the fairy great world was very powerful. Those cultivators with evil intentions only dared to think about it and did not dare to take action. If they were to take action, it would be hard to say who would emerge victorious. Who's that kid? Why is he with a group of fairies from the fairy great world? Someone pointed at Lin Feng, feeling very puzzled. The female cultivators from the fairy great world basically did not interact with other male cultivators. However, Lin Feng was with the female cultivators from the fairy great world and was even talking and laughing. Many people suddenly muttered in their hearts. Could it be that Lin Feng had some special relationship with the people from the fairy great world? That kid can't be enjoying the good fortune of having multiple partners, right? A cultivator said, looking at Lin Feng with eyes full of jealousy. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Brother, you think too much. Immediately after, someone retorted, unwilling to believe the words of the cultivator. If that cultivator's words were true, then that brat really made people envious and jealous. Anything is possible in this world, someone said. Lin Feng and the others did not pay attention to those cultivators. They continued to walk towards the secret location and gradually went deeper into the ancient forest. The ferocious beasts that appeared in their line of sight were getting stronger and stronger. Lin Feng and the others generally chose to avoid those ferocious beasts. If they could not avoid them, they would fight them. If they killed the ferocious beasts, Lin Feng would directly cut open their bellies and make a delicious meal. The female cultivators from the fairy great world were naturally full of praise for Lin Feng's culinary skills. On this day, when Lin Feng and the others were resting by a pool, the ground suddenly shook violently. Everyone was alarmed. What's going on? Nangong Yuqi was puzzled. Smoke and dust rose in the distance, as if some creatures were rapidly approaching. Look over there. A female cultivator pointed into the distance, her face full of solemnity. Lin Feng said, "There are ferocious beasts, and there are quite a few of them." Not long after, a group of ferocious beasts rushed over. They were extremely strange, ferocious beasts, 3 meters tall and 5 meters long. They were covered in dense scales, and their bodies were like those of a swanee, but their heads were like those of a chelan. There was a cultivator sitting on each of the ferocious beasts. Those cultivators were dressed in black robes, and their bodies emitted a sinister and terrifying aura. Lin Feng looked at those ferocious beasts in shock. He realized that those ferocious beasts seemed to have come from the outside world. It seemed that the forces these black-robed men belonged to were extremely extraordinary. Not only were they sent into this space, but their mounts were also sent into this space. Lin Feng did not recognize this group of people. He had never seen them before. However, he realized something. After seeing this group of black-robed men, the faces of Hua, Mengdai, Nangong Yuqi, and the others turned extremely unsightly. Clearly, Hua Mengdai, Nangong Yuqi, and the others recognized this group of black-robed men. "I didn't expect to see you here," the leading black-robed cultivator said with a sneer. This cultivator was exceptionally handsome. He had a head of long golden hair and a stern face. At this moment, his cold eyes swept over Hua Mengdai, Nangong Yuqi, and the others, revealing a sinister look. "Who are these people?" Lin Feng asked as he looked at Nangong Yuqi. Nangong Yuqi said, "The people of the dark world have always been the sworn enemies of our fairy world. It was not until 10 years ago that the two macro worlds stopped fighting. This man is called an Yeshang, and he is very powerful. Now they have 70 or 80 people on their side. We'll break through the siege later." Lin Feng nodded and observed the development of the situation. These people were indeed very powerful, and they had the advantage in numbers. They were also the archenemies of the fairy great world. Now, these people had surrounded the group from the fairy great world. Clearly, they wanted to make a move on the people from the fairy great world. Hua Mengdai said, "Our fairy great world has already signed a ceasefire agreement with your dark world. Why are you surrounding us?" Chapter 2655. Many times, having a beautiful face would bring a lot of trouble. Just like now, if Hua Mengdai and the others were ordinary women. The people from the dark world might not care about Hua Mengdai and the others, but they were not ordinary women. Each of them was as beautiful as a fairy. Many people were spying on them. The male cultivators who had spied on them were not strong enough and did not have the courage to attack. But the cultivators of the dark world were different. They had many people and were powerful, so they wanted to attack. Although the fairy great world and the dark world had signed a temporary peace agreement, both worlds were recuperating. But this was not the outside world. Even if the cultivators of the dark world really attacked the female cultivators of the fairy great world, as long as they did it cleanly and did not leak the news. When the time came, who would know it was them? "Break out," Hua Mengdai said in a low voice. She held a butterfly sword and quickly rushed in a direction. Nangong Yuqi and the others also attacked, trying to break out. Humph and Yeshang, the leader of the cultivators of the dark world, could not help but snort with a cold expression. His expression was indifferent as he waved his right hand. The cultivators of the dark world received the order and began to besiege Hua Mengdai and the others. Hua Mengdai and the others only had a dozen people. The other side had many people and mounts, so it was as difficult as ascending to the sky to break out. The female cultivators of the fairy great world were suppressed. Among them, Hua Mengdai and Nangong Yuqi had the highest cultivation. Although Hua Mengdai and Nangong Yuqi were powerful and killed 7 people in a row, they had consumed a lot of energy after the battle. Seeing Hua Mengdai and Nangong Yuqi kill so many of their people, and Yeshang looked at them, and Yeshang's expression darkened. He rode his fierce beast and rushed toward the battlefield. and Yeshang's weapon was a huge black spear. It was very powerful and emitted a terrifying fluctuation. No one dared to underestimate such a powerful weapon. Moreover, and Yeshang's cultivation was extremely strong. He used the Hua mountain splitting technique and smashed it toward Nangong Yuchi. Nangong Yuchi's expression changed greatly. She quickly waved the huge sword in her hand to block An Yeshang's attack. Clang! A deafening sound reverberated through the air. Nangong Yuchi was sent flying, her face as pale as paper. An Yeshang shook his spear. An ray of spear light shot out from it. The spear light pierced through Nangong Yuchi's body. And Yeshang was vicious and merciless. When he saw that Hua Mengdai and Nangong Yuchi had killed so many people from the dark world, and Yeshang immediately wanted to kill them. There were so many women anyway. There was nothing wrong with killing these two women. Be careful! Hua Mengdai reacted quickly and arrived in front of Nangong Yuchi, slashing out with her butterfly sword. Clang! The sound of a collision was heard. Along with the violent collision, Hua Mengdai managed to block An Yeshang's tyrannical blow. However, at this moment, An Yeshang had already arrived in front of Hua Mengdai. The battle spear in his hand directly pierced through Hua Mengjia's body. This attack was simply too terrifying. He was so powerful that it made people tremble in fear. Moreover, it was already too late for Hua Mengdai to dodge this spear. Senior sister. Nangong Yuchi's face was pale as she looked at the spear that was piercing through Hua Mengdai in horror. She wanted to save Hua Mengdai. However, there was nothing she could do. Senior sister. The other female cultivators from the fairy great world also looked at Hua Mengdai, their eyes filled with sadness and helplessness. They were surrounded. It was really hopeless. Now that Hua Mengdai was about to be killed, their hearts were filled with endless sadness. Hua Mengjia's right hand that was holding onto the butterfly sword gradually loosened. It was too late to resist. She sighed in her heart. It seemed that she would not be able to escape today. Perhaps this was her fate. The only difference was how she would die. Hua Mengjia's heart was filled with endless despair. She originally thought that she was going to die a tragic death. However, at this moment, a big hand suddenly grabbed the spear that was piercing through Hua Mengdai. He grabbed the battle spear with his bare hands. How is that possible? Everyone was stunned on the spot. They could not believe what they were seeing, and Yeshang's powerful spear was coming at them. How terrifying was the power contained in this spear? It was actually grabbed by Lin Feng. Are you okay? Lin Feng looked at Hua Mengdai and asked. Only then did Hua Mengdai come back to her senses. Her heart was also surging with monstrous waves. Originally, she thought that Lin Feng might know some array techniques or Qi Huang technique, which might be useful when going to the secret plane. That was why she invited Lin Feng to go with her. However, she did not expect Lin Feng's cultivation to be so powerful. Nangong Yuchi also opened her mouth wide and looked at Lin Feng in disbelief. She had always thought that Lin Feng's cultivation was mediocre. Only now did she know that Lin Feng was actually hiding his strength. Hua Mengdai came back to her senses and quickly said, "I'm fine. Thank you for saving me." "Fairy is too polite," Lin Feng said. "Boy, who are you? How dare you meddle in other people's business? Don't you know that the dark world's 12 dark nights are nearby? If you leave now, I will pretend that nothing happened." And Yeshang also came back to his senses and looked coldly at Lin Feng. "What? The dark world's 12 dark nights are nearby?" The expressions of Hua Mengdai, Nangong Yuchi, and the others changed greatly. From their expressions, one could see how terrifying the dark world's 12 dark nights were. If it were someone else, they might choose to leave in order to protect themselves. However, Lin Feng could not do such a thing. He got along well with Hua Mengdai and the others, and he was now a member of their team. How could he abandon his companions and leave alone? Lin Feng could not do such a thing. What dark world's 12 dark nights? I've never heard of them. Lin Feng smiled coldly and shook his right hand. In a flash, a monstrous strength emerged from his hand, and Yeshang's hand was cracked, and his spear was seized by Lin Feng. And Yeshang reacted very quickly. He quickly urged his mount to retreat. Lin Feng held his spear and looked coldly at Yeshang. Scram! If you scram now, I won't kill you. Lin Feng's words were abnormally domineering. Hua Mengdai, Nangong Yuqi, and the many female cultivators of the fairy great world looked at Lin Feng with a strange light in their eyes. Boy, who do you think you are? No matter how strong you are, do you think you can defeat so many of us? Let's attack together and kill this boy. And Yeshang's face was full of malevolence as he waved his right hand. Chapter 2656. With so many cultivators attacking Lin Feng, a murderous aura permeated the air. There were about 70 people on the other side, and they were all riding mounts. The mounts they rode on were also extremely powerful. One with their mounts, their combat strength would be greatly increased. Attack! Hua Mengdai shouted softly, wanting to help Lin Feng fight against the people of the dark world. Lin Feng said, "Just protect yourselves." As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Feng leaped up and pulled out the battle spear in his hand. Bang! 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 A series of violent collisions rang out. Hua Mengdai, Nangong Yuqi, and the others saw that Lin Feng was like a god-fiend descending to the world. The battle spear in his hand was invincible and invincible. He pulled out the spear, both the cultivator and his mount. They were all sent flying by Lin Feng. One after another, the cultivators from the dark world and their mounts were all killed. Lin Feng seemed to have entered a no-man's land as he quickly rushed toward Yeshang, who was hiding behind the crowd. He's too strong. Hua Mengdai, Nangong Yuqi, and the others were deeply shocked. The combat strength that Lin Feng displayed shocked and moved them. They were all guessing what level of expert Lin Feng was. Even when compared to the top heaven's favorites, he was probably better than them. The cultivators of the dark world were also trembling in fear. Stop him! Stop him for me! And Yeshang roared in horror as he saw Lin Feng killing like a god-fiend. And Yeshang was also scared out of his wits. He did not expect Lin Feng to be so powerful. Facing the siege of so many experts, he was still so strong. It was as if an unparalleled god-fiend had descended, and Yeshang's heart was filled with fear and shock. He just wanted to escape, quickly, and find the 12 dark nights. In Yeshang's opinion, the 12 dark nights were invincible. They were almost invincible among the younger generation. By the time the 12 dark horsemen arrived, Lin Feng would be dead. Although the rest of the cultivators also wanted to escape, they had no choice but to bite the bullet and attack Lin Feng after receiving Yeshang's order. Total annihilation. Antelope hanging horns. Great sage cleave. Various powerful moves were displayed one after another. The cultivators of the dark world were sent flying. His body exploded in midair, and he died on the spot. Lin Feng quickly broke out of the encirclement and chased after Yeshang. Do you think you can still escape? Lin Feng's voice was as cold as the grim reaper from hell. The war spear in his hand exuded a cold and bloodthirsty aura. That aura made Yeshang's limbs turn cold, and Yeshang could sense the murderous intent coming from Lin Feng. Lin Feng did not try to hide his killing intent towards Yeshang. You can't kill me. My elder brother is one of the 12 dark horsemen. If you kill me, you will die as well." And Yesheng shouted in horror. At that moment, he used his elder brother as a deterrent to scare Lin Feng away. However, Lin Feng did not take Yesheng's elder brother seriously at all. He said coldly, "I am looking forward to fighting with your elder brother. When the time comes, I will kill him and attain my Tao." As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Feng's war spear pierced through Yesheng's body. It was a peerlessly terrifying spear. It pierced through the void. It shot toward Yesheng. And Yesheng wanted to dodge, but it was too late. Uft! His chest was pierced through by Lin Feng's war spear. And Yesheng lowered his head and looked at the war spear that had pierced through his chest in disbelief. "I can't believe I died just like that," and Yesheng muttered to himself before he breathed his last. "Run." When the rest of the people saw that Yesheng had been killed by Lin Feng, they scattered and fled. With so many people, Lin Feng could not catch up to all of them. Hence, he did not chase after them. Instead, he used the great devouring technique and devoured all the soul origins of the dead cultivators. These soul origins were extremely precious and could increase his soul power. Lin Feng used his spiritual force to sense the secrets in Yesheng's soul. However, he discovered that there was a restriction set up in his soul. The restriction sensed Lin Feng's intention. It immediately destroyed Yesheng's soul. The souls of Yesheng and the others had been restricted. Lin Feng could only obtain the power of their soul origins, but not their soul memories. "Lin Gongzi, we have to leave this place quickly. When the 12 dark horsemen arrive, I'm afraid we won't be able to leave even if we want to," Hua Mengdai said with a worried expression. Lin Feng was very curious about the 12 dark horsemen. Right now, he needed powerful cultivators to temper his cultivation. Of course, Lin Feng also knew that if the 12 dark horsemen attacked together, he would not be able to stop them. For the sake of Hua, Mengdai, Nangong Yuchi, and the others' safety, it was naturally not wise to stay here for long. Lin Feng said, "All right, let's go then." The group quickly left. On the way, Lin Feng looked at Hua Mengdai and asked, "Are the 12 dark horsemen very powerful?" Hua Mengdai nodded and said, "Very, very powerful. The 12 of them have obtained the inheritance of the Dark Demon Master. Moreover, each of them has devoured a strand of the Dark World's world origin. Even the older generation experts are shocked by their cultivation and do not dare to fight them head-on." Lin Feng was shocked. No wonder the 12 Dark Horsemen were so powerful. They had obtained so many fortuitous encounters, the inheritance of the Dark Demon Master, and the Dark World's world origin. Any one of these fortuitous encounters could be considered heaven-defying. The Dark Demon Master, is he one of the 9 Demon Masters? Lin Feng could not help but ask. He knew that 9 Demon Masters had been born in this epoch. However, Lin Feng was not familiar with the 9 Demon Masters. Previously, Lin Feng had obtained a mnemonic chant passed down by one of the Demon Masters. However, Lin Feng was still unable to comprehend the mnemonic chant. That's right. The Dark Demon Master is the monarch of darkness among the 9 Demon Masters. Back then, he was also a powerhouse that ruled the heavens. When the immortals saw him, they had to kneel and kowtow. Hua Mengdai said, "It was easy to imagine how powerful the inheritance of a tyrannical existence like the Dark Demon Master was. In addition, the 12 Dark Horsemen had obtained the Dark World's world origin. It was no wonder Hua Mengdai, Nangong Yuchi, and the others had revealed expressions of terror when they heard about the 12 Dark Horsemen. The fleeing cultivators of the Dark World had gathered together. And Yeshang's death was a huge matter. After all, and Yeshang's status was extremely noble. They quickly rushed toward a mountain range 100 li away. The 12 dark horsemen were resting in the mountain range. After a quarter of an hour, they saw the mountain range.